And welcome, everybody, to a celebration, a coronation, a great day to be a knight. At least I think so. I'm Eric Lopez. It's another edition of Night Shift. That's the reason why we're excited. It's another edition of Night Shift. I don't know what, apparently there's some news we're going to talk about. I'm Eric Lopez, reunited, Andrew Gluchov, Brian Murphy. We got the A-team here today. It's a big show here, boys.
Does that mean I'm Murdoch?
Ooh, good reference there. See, people may not know the A-Team was like a great TV show in the 80s, Mr. T.
Dun,
That's
dun,
a
dun,
yeah.
dun,
Back in the days when television programs were good quality and not canceled in 10 minutes like today's day and age of television. But nonetheless, this is not a TV show, it's a UCF show. Coming up, all right. Make sure you follow
ourselves
slightly. So you can subscribe to our YouTube page. You should do it by now. Make sure you like us. Leave your comments. We're going to answer your questions here tonight. All the questions and comments you will have. You know the drill if you've been on Night Shift, of course. You can follow us at blackandgoldbanneret.com. And, of course, follow us at UCF_Banneret there. And you can like us on our Facebook page as well. Lots of new content. Obviously, the news is obvious. UCF has a new head football coach, ladies and gentlemen, and that is none other than Gus Malzahn. Named the head coach, was introduced already today, which was it was one of the fastest, by the way, hey, let's set up a news conference. I'm going to give the floor to Murph because Murph, you were there, and as Bryson Turner's already commented, he wants to know how was Edition Arena, Mr. Murphy, because not a lot of people have been there recently.
Yeah, I guess you could say the 2021 football season started inside a basketball arena today, and it did. Yeah, I guess it was kind of weird how they hired their coach, and then 2 hours later, then the introductory press conference is 2 hours later. Here we go. It wasn't like they hired Mohajer and then they waited a day for the press conference. But I think what struck me most today was just the sort of the life and spirit and verve that Gus Malzahn really spoke with. And he talked a lot about, wanting to possibly take a year off after his time at Auburn came to an end. He was fired back in mid-December, and thought about maybe taking a year off, spending time with his family, his grandkids, maybe doing some TV work. And then the UCF job opened, obviously, and he said multiple times that he was immediately excited for this job. He wanted this job even before Terry Mohajer, his old boss at Arkansas State, was hired as the AD here. And I think that he really wanted to pound that home, that how much he really, really wanted this job, and that if there was a job that was going to keep him in the business, and for his family, it's a family business. I mean, his wife is with him every step of the way through 30 plus years of coaching. She's very much involved with the team as well. So it's not just him, but his whole family. For them to be involved for another year, they had to find a job, a school, a program where he really thought he could do huge things, and he wanted to pound the point home that it was UCF.
Andrew, what was your reaction when we caught wind that it was Gus Malzahn? We heard it, that the reports were out there on Sunday nights, but we weren't 100% sure he was offered the job, and it was reports, and then finally it all came down here on Monday morning. What's been your reaction to all of this?
Well, I mean, we've definitely heard the rumblings for a while, but I got to give UCF credit. They were pretty tight on this one. It didn't really leak all that much, other than the fact that an offer was given, but nothing about anything definitive until this morning. So I know we erred on the side of caution to not overextend ourselves, but I'll tell you one thing, Eric, you and I, we were pretty early on the Malzahn, bus as far as him as a viable candidate. I remember when we did our first head coaching candidate article, which was before Mohajer was even hired, and Malzahn was on the list because, one, he's available. And I think that's partially why that press conference happened so quick. No buyout needed. Hey, what are you doing today? Oh, nothing. Get on a plane. And fast forward a little bit, Mohajer's hired. Okay, Malzahn makes even more sense. Do another article, and he's our elder statesman on there. I think this was a home run hire. I think all the pieces are in place. There's the national perception is giving UCF an A+ on this one. CBS Sports all over it. thought it was an absolutely stunning hire. Yahoo's a little more tempered on it, but still said it was the best hire they could have made. And you know what? You gotta trade between young and exciting versus the old grizzled vet. And I think with Malzahn at 55 years old, he's 3 years younger than George O'Leary was when he came to UCF. There is a blueprint already in place that, hey, if I'm happy and things are going well, I could stay here. They'll keep me here. It happened with George O'Leary, and it for the most part went well. There was hiccups, but I think Gus Malzahn is a more accomplished coach than George O'Leary ever was, and I think this is a place that we can make as a destination. The fact of you're in Orlando, you're in a hotbed of recruiting. Everything you want is around you, and you have the ability to write history. Where else would you rather be?
From a resume standpoint, UCF has never made a head coaching hire in any sport bigger than this. You could say that John Roddick, the men's tennis coach, is a bigger name in the college tennis world. Obviously, he's competed for national titles, but that's college tennis. This is college football. This is huge. You mentioned it. The resume speaks for itself. It's a home run hire and then some. And the national media, Murph, you were there, but there was national media in the Zoom. I don't remember that much national media at a UCF press conference ever. It was definitely not there for Heupel. Wasn't there for Frost that I remember. You had Pete Thamel. You had Pat Forty. You had Ralph Russo, the AP.
Andy Staples.
Andy Staples. Andre was there in person. All of them have written. Dennis Dodd.
Yeah.
They have all written national pieces today. Gus Malzahn and UCF. I know Murph hates this show, but pardon the interruption, even talked about this move. And
I like that show. It's like the one show I like. I like that one show.
Well, your boy Tony Kornheiser, I think, in honor of you with a fedora hat, was breaking down the UCF hire. He was like channeling a Zinner Brian Murphy moment there, and he said it was a great hire. And Kornheiser's
a relative that used to go to UCF or something.
I don't know.
Once upon a time.
But maybe I don't recall that. But. I mean, nationally, this has been well received. It's been a big time hire. I did a Louisiana radio show and I had they talked about, wow, can you believe you got Gus Malzahn? And a lot of text messages I got about, wow, you guys pulled this off. It's incredible. This is a huge moment here. I think Terry said it best in the press conference. This is a brand head coach. This is a big name. This is a top 10 head coach, he feels like. This is a home run swing here. This is a home run by all sides. Incredible move for all parties.
It's a home run swing. And so I don't want to go too deep down that metaphor of like it's a fantastic hire because, again, that's to be played out. It is definitely a home run swing because this is UCF marrying itself with a national brand coach, which is what Terry Mohajir really one of the things that really attracted him to Gus Malzahn is the fact that, like he said in the press conference, if you go from Sacramento, California to Syracuse, New York, you know who Gus Malzahn is. He is a fantastic recruiter, and that name is going to help you get recruits. Plus, Gus said that they're going to recruit the state of Florida like their hair is on fire. I know a lot of people in the fan base have wanted that. They clamored for that. The UCF attacked Florida recruiting more. I've always said it doesn't matter where you get your kids from as long as you get the best players to fit your system. But again, there is an attachment to the local products. I understand that. And Gus Malzahn seems to be fervent to do that. Plus, he has plenty of experience doing that over the past 10 plus years at Auburn. He's been canvassing the Southeast for a long time. So he's very, very aware of the fertile recruiting ground here, which is one of the things that he liked about this job, the potential that you have to build a program with this kind of base where within any 6-hour drive within the state, you can get to anybody. And it's the highest prospects in the country, probably. So yeah, it's a national brand. It's a national brand coach signing up for an emerging national brand program and hoping that marriage works in the long term. Again, way too early to say if it will, but it looks great on paper. This is an extremely attractive hire. It
took a big step to a national brand. That is no question. Let's bring in. It's a big night shift. First, we're going to 4-box. 4-box, people. Yeah.
Quad box.
Scott Hansen's got nothing on us.
Actually, he's got a lot on us, but let's Let's
Jeff.
take it
I
as
like
it is.
Hanson, man. We don't have to dig on him. I like Hanson.
I like Hanson too.
All right.
So,
All right, Jeffrey. Go
what's
ahead.
up, boys?
What is your reaction? This is a celebrating day here. I'm going to go ahead and get an alcoholic beverage.
Why? Well, listen. No, before we do that, we need to make clear to the viewers here that Lopez here was telling me earlier today. It is 9:15 at night. How can you be doing that? Lopez over here was telling us on our chat earlier today. He's like, "I'm emotional. I can't believe we've gotten Gus Malzahn." I'm like,
the best hire in the history of UCF athletics.
Hold on. We don't know that yet.
No, we do. The resume speaks for it. He's the best hire.
We don't know that because you're putting yourself way out there on a limb, and games are not played on paper. They're played inside TV sets, as Kenny Mayne says.
I will bet my house
here's the thing.
on him.
You don't own your house.
Yes.
But so first of all, I personally made a mistake. I initially when we were talking about, when we were throwing around the idea of Gus Malzahn coming to UCF, I made a mistake. My mistake was I judged him based on the performance against UCF in the Peach Bowl. And I think a lot of UCF fans did too. No, it's seriously. I think we saw some things in that game that was like, oh man, really? I mean,
the most overly scrutinized bowl game in the history of the world, the Peach Bowl.
Well, if you're a UCF fan, of course, it's the most important game in the history of the program. But
the most important one is the next one. We're going to have bigger games.
But sure, whatever. But the more I went back and I dug into Gus's history and I did more digging on, how his former players feel about him, how the college football world in general feels about him, I really did come around on him. I think it's UCF clearly made the best hire of the 2021 offseason. I think that UCF upgraded from Josh Heupel. I really do believe that. And
so do Tennessee fans.
Now the expectations, yeah.
Thank you, Danny White.
Now the expectations are through the roof, and you know what we say about about high expectations, but this is what we wanted, right? We wanted expectations, and we want somebody who at least we believe we can achieve those expectations.
Well, you're right.
The question is,
you're right.
Can he? We have to play the games yet. That's why I'm not cautiously optimistic. I'm cautiously enthusiastic is how I would call it.
You're the negative Nancy.
Yeah.
That's what Eric thinks.
You're Debbie Downer.
Well, Jeff's right, though, because Jeff's right, Murph? Because, Gus, you got asked by one of the media people, the pressure cooker here. How's he going to deal with that? It's not like he's ever coached at a pressure cooker before.
All right, calm down.
That got made fun of by national media. Did you see that?
Rightfully so. That's
we don't need to out anybody. They're good people.
Well, we know. Well, all you have to do is look back at the press conference.
Right,
and
you can
exactly
look at the tape. Yeah, if you want to go find out who it was, go back watch the presser. I'm not going to go help.
We're not going to rag on that. Yeah. So anyway,
let's just say there's a little more pressure in Auburn. I think he'll handle the pressure, whatever pressure we're going to have here. All right.
But no, I mean, look, this is a head coach who has 3 wins against Nick Saban, which is a mighty feat in itself. I think only one other coach has 3 wins. I think that's Les Miles is 3 wins against Nick Saban. No one else has more than 2. He's won SEC titles. He was an offensive coordinator for a national championship team.
Yep.
Took the team to another national championship against Florida State. He's won a conference championships before. And I know it's been up and down, but never had a losing season in the SEC in a division where he has to play Alabama and LSU every year.
The strongest division in college football. Like, it's stronger than most conferences. Yeah.
Auburn fans. I mean, we could go into like what happened there, but like it came to the point where like the marriage, even though there were $21 million buyout left on it, that the marriage had sort of run its course. They got bored with like 4 loss seasons, and they wanted out, and they did whatever they could to get rid of him. And I just think it's fascinating, and this is how much that Gus Malzahn really wanted this job. Yeah. One, we know he's a great head coach, and he loves being he loves to be a coach. He said it took him 1 week after his firing to understand that he wanted to be a coach again, but didn't know if that would be this year or next.
It took him 1 week of laying back on $21 million to say, you know what, I think I want to get back in the game.
Well, technically, you only had 10 of it so far.
Yeah.
The rest comes installments.
So he got 10.
Whatever. It's still $21 million more than I'm getting.
So he got $10.5 million after all the accolades he's already compiled and all the salaries he's already compiled. He got $10.5 million on Christmas and could have taken a year off to give his family a break and himself a break. And he said he enjoyed it too, just like spend time and not have an alarm clock to wake up to. And it was great. But this job was too good for him to turn down. I think that speaks volumes to how much he really admires this place.
Hashtag this place.
Look,
the truth is, he's always had very high opinion of UCF even before. He was assistant coach. He was offensive coordinator for Tulsa when they played here for the 2007 conference championship game. So he already had a taste of UCF prior to his time at Auburn. He's always had a soft spot for Orlando.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I agree. He's targeted.
Yeah, he was clear about that in the press conference too. That I think the quote that I sent out from him was, he always thought that if they got the right person in here to really build the program, that everybody was going to be in trouble. And he said, "I think I'm the right guy." I
love the energy.
Yeah, that's the swag, man. That's the swag that fans have been looking for a long time.
Well, he's got a personality. We got a personality. Brian, you finally have an interesting press conference to cover the rest of your life. You don't have to fall asleep.
There's no cardboard box behind the podium.
When that press conference ended, like the first thing we did after like all the luminaries left the room, like the media all got in a circle and go like, wasn't that exciting? Oh my God. That was like entertaining. He had things to say. We haven't done that in like 3 years.
3?
Maybe
When was the last time George was
No.
there?
Scott Frost, when Scott Frost knew he was going to Nebraska, was an open book. It was really fun.
He did open up late there.
The last month of Scott Frost's tenure was fantastic.
So he went honey badger.
A little bit.
He don't care. I don't know why I didn't think about that, but I did. He don't care.
I want to ask you guys this, though, because you bring that up. And the contract's out. You guys have seen the contract. And I found that very interesting. And you guys can break it down more. Andrew, I know you're going to write about it and have studied it. The base salary is low. Really, a lot of the money is incentives and more about what is it? Media appearances and obligations he's got to do, right?
Opposite of a normal contract, basically.
And what I want to ask you guys, I wonder if Terry Mohajir did that on purpose, because maybe he heard about, hey, Josh Heupel really didn't talk to anybody. He didn't want to do media. He blew off interviews. He didn't talk to. I'm wondering if this is a result of the previous coaches being reluctant to talk to media or even donors and things like that. And this was a reaction to that. I really do. No, I really do. I don't think you go out of your way to do it.
I think it's more just personal style.
By who?
Mohajir's a different person than Danny White. He has different priorities.
But they're paying him money to brand build. Right. They're paying him money to brand build.
Which the other coaches did, which Josh Heupel never did. He never he never did any of that.
He had no brand to build. He himself had no brand. It's not like he can't walk in a room and everyone knew who he was. Gus Malzahn walks in a room.
People want him to be out front. People want him to be out front and go, "I'm Gus Malzahn."
So you're saying it's the dollar value in the name Gus Malzahn. That's basically
Josh Heupel did not have this much cachet. I mean, I know that's going down a long limb there, but he didn't.
Okay. Oh, that's a fair question. That's fair. That's fair to bring that up. I like that.
You got to remember though that those media, those are part of contracts anyway. Like I remember going back to when George O'Leary was here, that a couple times he blew off interviews. Like I think one time at a halftime he blew off Jerry O'Neal, and I think it was Steve Orsini at the time actually had a come to Jesus meeting with George and said, "Listen, this is in your contract. You don't blow off Jerry O, and you got to do these interviews." So I don't think that's that overly big of a deal.
I mean, the fact that's
I think what's more interesting to me is two things about the contract. Number one is the actual length and salary he's being paid, which is $11.5 million over 5 years. It's $2.3 million a year, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, Murph, a modest increase over what UCF was paying Josh Heupel at the end.
Because at the end of Josh Heupel, they're paying him 2.3, I think, right?
Okay, so right in line with that. The other part that I thought was interesting, and Eric, you brought this up, was the buyout scheme.
Yep.
Over the 5 years. And I think, do you have that image? Because if you can, I think we can pull it up and we can show everybody what we're looking at with that MOU.
I'm not as creative as you are when it comes to grabbing those graphics.
Oh, come on. No, all you got to do is share your screen.
We can read it.
Yeah, go ahead and read it here.
Go ahead and read it. Do you have it up?
Yeah, I have it up.
Okay,
so if he's
it's a different buyout for each one of the 5 years. Go ahead.
Exactly. If he's terminated before the end of this calendar year, December 31st, it's a $7 million buyout, and that would be terminated as in he quits
or goes somewhere else.
Right, because there's a separate provision for if he's fired. If it's by the end of next year, 2022, it's a $5 million buyout. Then it goes down to a $3 million, $2 million, and then if he leaves before December 31st, 2024, it's a $500,000 buyout.
Now, I think that's interesting because I think what Terry Mohajir is booking on is I don't think that signals that Gus might be here for longer than 3 to 4 years. I'm not 100% sure on that.
Well, I see this too, but go on.
Well, okay. Well, I want to know what you think about it because to me it feels like, okay, if Gus does leave UCF eventually after 2 or 3 years, then the business model continues, right? We have a down payment on the next guy, whoever that may be. What did you think about it, Drew?
Well, as I alluded before with the whole O'Leary thing, the pieces are in place that he could decide he wants to stick around. And that if he makes it to the end of the 5 years, he's here for a long time. He's not going anywhere at that point.
Right.
So the buyout obviously shrinks down to next to nothing, and it'll probably reset to a certain extent on a new contract. But at that point, there's no reason for a large buyout. If it's 3 years, $3 million is kind of on par for what UCF has received at that point, and they recoup a good chunk of their costs. $2.3 million for his salary. Was it $3.3 million this season for the assistant pool, which, as we looked, is an upgrade from what Josh Heupel had at his disposal. But of course, new administration running the show, new philosophies. So I mean, it's a little bit apples and oranges. But I see it as two ways. It's either he's looking at going back into the P5 and get maybe back into the SEC, or he decides, you know what, I'm going to long haul this.
Yeah. So it starts at 7, then it goes down 2, down 1, and then down 1.5, which I think is pretty interesting. Eric, can you go to the first page too? Because I want to talk about some of the stuff on the first page. I saw a question on there about they had a lot of CFP related bonuses, but that's actually pretty standard. I think every coach kind of gets that. They get those performance based incentives, regardless of what level they're on. Those performance-based incentives are all built in. Even the guy at Coastal Carolina has a CFP clause in his contract where he'll get
Jeff, since we're talking
X
about
number of dollars for that.
Buyouts and terminations, I just want to hit real quick. If UCF fires Gus Malzahn, if he's fired this season, so between now and the end of this year, 90% of his contract is payable.
It's still owed, yeah.
It's still owed. If it's on or after January 1st, 2022. So anytime through the rest of the contract, 75% of the contract's due. So he could be in his last season if UCF fires him, they owe 75% of what's remaining on the contract. Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. It does tie him here pretty much, for at least the medium term. There's the first page, and Eric, I know you're going to blow this up, but I wanted to show everybody sort of the incentive structure here, because I always find this kind of stuff really interesting that you see in these MOUs, which are made public. Because remember, this isn't the full contract. There's still Gus's agent, which is Jimmy Sexton, and UCF's lawyers are still they're still negotiating all of the fine points of the language. But when you get hired to a job like this, your basic agreement is this MOU, right?
It's like a preliminary.
And I think, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, Willie Taggart had his MOU signed, but his actual contract at Florida State was never signed. Is that right?
Yeah, that was the word on the street. That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So it could take a while for them to actually negotiate the real contract. I'm trying to see here if you can blow it up. That would be better. Performance-based or performance incentives for New Year's Six bowls, top 25 finishes, CFP poll, top 15, all that kind of stuff, winning a bowl game. Okay, we talk about being motivated. Coaches get bonuses for winning bowl games, right? Bowl participation, winning the conference championship, all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty standard. This is a pretty useful contract for UCF. I think it's a pretty good one for Gus. I think we're going to see him here for at least the medium term. I think that he definitely fits the brand that UCF has been trying to build since Danny White came here.
UCF Fast still alive, guys. I know what to mean.
Yeah. Hey, Drew, you said UCF Fast was dead.
No,
You did. You said it.
Wait. Let's be honest.
You said it.
Let's be honest. Gus Malzahn, while does run a no-huddle offense, will not run a remotely as fast offense as Josh Heupel.
No, he'll
not
adapt.
Even close.
He's going to adapt too, because you look at the press conference.
Let's not forget, UCF Fast wasn't a Josh Heupel thing. It was a Scott Frost thing. Okay, he wanted speed on offense and fierceness on defense, right? So it didn't have to do with, of course, Josh Heupel took UCF Fast to its logical conclusion, but we're still going to get speed on offense here. Okay, like that part's not going away.
Yeah, but it's going to be variations. I agree with Andrew on this because I think one of the bigger takeaways from Gus's presser is he wants a top defense, top 10, top 15, and you're not going to be going 100 miles an hour at your defense's expense.
The guy wrote a book on no-huddle offenses.
Yes,
there's the no-huddle offense and taking less than 20 seconds to snap.
Bingo.
Okay, fine. All right, I get that, but let's not make Gus Malzahn out to be Mr. Ground and Pound here. Okay, let's be real.
Well, I mean, they've been a top 10 rushing offense, but I think this is going to be closer.
UCF was a top 10 rushing offense under Scott Frost.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. I think we're going back to that. That's because remember, Scott didn't go in 20 seconds or less. He actually adapted his schedule when he needed to in the game. And Gus even mentioned this, and Murph, you were at the game, you too, Andrew, at that Peach Bowl, he saw that UCF can play defense, that this is not just a program that's going to outscore people. You can get athletes to play defense as long as you complement them there.
In fairness to that, Eric, the only part of the reason why he sped up the way he did earlier in the season is because the defense was getting worn down from just existing. You had 12 games in a row without a bye week.
Right.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But that's a great coach adapting, not forcing the issue like Josh did. I thought Josh always forced the tempo when it really wasn't. It just wasn't working. Right. Exactly.
He had one speed, and it was lightning fast. And
he's a one-pitch pitcher. As we continue our baseball analogies in honor of Murph for Baseball Week. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, he only had a 100 mile per hour fastball, and God help you if you actually get the timing of it down. He throws about.
Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Go hit it.
His accuracy is about as up there with Wild Thing Vaughn.
That's too easy. Come on.
I'm from Cleveland.
Back to football, please.
That's why it was too easy. Anyway.
Come on. But the truth is, Eric nails it. You want a championship defense, you have to slow down enough so they can, get a breather. UCF's going to have to build up depth. Depth was absolutely, shellacked, this past offseason. 4 players off your top, off your 2 deep. Another bunch of players released because of disciplinary reasons. You're playing freshmen who should have seen the field this year. And there was no, you have a bag of potato chips on the bench. At that point, you can't play 100 miles per hour and expect them to even remotely play with any level of competency, just out of fatigue. It's not saying they're not good. I mean, when you're tired, you're tired. So they're going to have to find a balance, and they're going to have to slow down at least a little bit. Now, Scott Frost got it. Josh Heupel never did.
I think this is a good point to segue to the question that I think I'm seeing a lot pulling up in the comments here, Eric, and I want you to capture.
Yeah, we got to get to some of these. A lot of people tuning in, a lot of questions. Yeah. So go ahead.
But I think the big question is now, what is Gus going to do with the defensive staff?
Bye.
Well, I think it's bye.
Bye.
Who was it? It was Beatty that asked the question in the presser, right, Murph?
Right. About Randy Shannon?
About Randy Shannon. And Gus gave the very diplomatic answer about, I have tremendous respect for Randy. We talked a little bit earlier. We'll talk a little bit more later. But yes, I do have tremendous respect for Randy Shannon, the work he's done in college football, the work he's done here at UCF, which was a very, very kind way of saying, I am not committing to keeping Randy Shannon on the staff now.
Body language. I mean, body language said a lot.
Terry Mohajer did the same thing in his opening remarks. So I want to take some time to thank Randy Shannon for how he's guided these players. I've been in this business a long time. I've never heard anybody say a bad thing about Randy Shannon. I just want to thank him for everything he's done during this time. And it just felt like we appreciate your hard work, sort of a going away, handshake. Really
there was something it was the goodbye look, to quote Donald Fagen. I mean,
regardless, he's getting paid. That $1 million contract is guaranteed.
Gus could probably afford to pay him by himself.
That would be cool if you pay it off himself, so UCF doesn't have to eat it.
So there are reports now, and Eric, I think you just brought it up, that this is the guy that may get a look as UCF's defensive coordinator, Travis Williams, the inside linebackers coach at the University of Miami, right?
Yeah, that's correct. There's been reports already this morning. I mean, there's talk that Gus might announce some staff guys as early as Tuesday. I think he has a pretty good idea what his staff is going to look like. But Travis is somebody that's been with the Auburn staff. He was on Gus's staff. In fact, as most recently as 2018, they were 14th ranked in the nation. He's currently the linebacker coach at Miami, but it sounds like that's not going to last too long. He just joined. So, yeah, I think he's a known great recruiter. So he's going to be on Gus's staff more than likely as the defensive coordinator. That's at least the word in the college football circles. We'll see if that comes to newish to Plant. But, he's got more money to play with because that assistant salary pool is up to 3.3, which is more than what Hypo had, which was about 2.5. And I've gotten text messages that tell me that they think that the staff that Gus will build is the best staff that any UCF football staff has ever had. That's big words.
Well, let's see until they actually hire them. I mean, sure, why not? But we always hear every year in recruiting that this is the greatest recruiting class that we've ever pulled in. And I'm like, well, of course you'd say that. My thing is, I think this is the right fit, and with everything that with Gus, he really is the perfect fit, which is why I get scared a little bit, because it's like, oh man, what if this doesn't work? Because I'm a fan and I'm a lunatic like that. You guys know me, I panic all the time, but yeah, basically.
Wait. You talk about you panicking. Look at I panic all the time. Screen above you.
Yeah. Yeah. Eric panics. Eric panics a fair amount, but I panic when no one. When I panic when no one else is panicking. I'm like, oh my god, this is going too.
In the dark by yourself.
When we're 30-point favorites
this is going too well. Something's gonna break here, right?
Panicker.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see.
We're up 28 on Temple, and I'm like, it's not enough.
But let me ask you, Ball, what did you think of his answer about recruiting in general? How they're going to Florida, they're going to go all in Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, very south. I mean, he was very aggressive on his answer in recruiting there, which I thought was, look, a lot of people have complained about the lack of recruiting in Florida, especially with the previous regime.
Well, I mean, of course, he says the right thing, and I think Gus brings tremendous legitimacy to high school programs. When he, coming from UCF, right? I mean, Gus knows how to recruit. We know that. We know that from Auburn. We know that from Marquis State, and people forget the talent he was bringing into Tulsa when he was the offensive coordinator there. It was pretty amazing.
They had the number one ranked offense.
Yeah, I mean, 2 years in a row. And he certainly said the right things. I think he did kind of temper it when he said we're also going to go to Georgia and Alabama and Louisiana and South Carolina and some of those other places, which you have to say. But I do think, we're gonna get to it as a very Southeast oriented recruiting thing. I remember the infographic that we put up that I put up a couple of weeks ago that showed the different coaches and where they were pulling guys from. I think Frost was pulling some guys from California and the upper Midwest. Hypo was kind of lower Midwest and Southwest, a lot of guys. O'Leary was, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and then up in the Northeast a little bit. I think the map of UCF recruiting under Gus Malzahn is going to overlap perfectly with the map of the Southeastern Conference, right? It's going to be Florida. It's going to be Georgia, South Carolina, Alabama, Louisiana. maybe a little bit, maybe go out as far as like Tennessee, maybe some Texas here and there. Arkansas definitely, because I think Gus still has his connections from his high school days out there. It's going to be all Southeast all the time.
And he's already begun recruiting already. He ain't wasting time. He's already sending offers out. Look at that.
Omari Kelly, apparently already receiving an offer. I got to look this kid up here, by the way. So
he ain't wasting time, boys. He ain't wasting time at all, my friend.
That's what we want to see.
That's right. We're getting questions, by the way. Will UCF get some vests for Malzahn on the shelves for fans? I hope so.
Already in the mail.
They burn the shackets.
They burn the shackets.
They trade in the shackets.
Yeah,
to get vests. They
sent the shackets back to Nike. They're getting a fresh shipment of sweater vests and pullovers right now. By the way, Omari Kelly, 6'2", 180-pound athlete out of Hewitt Trussville High School in Trussville, Alabama. He's a 2022.
4-star, baby. Woo!
Yeah, you know how I feel about stars. I don't want to hear it.
Jeff, comment on UCF offering a 4-star athlete. What do you think about 4 stars?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Well, ask me in 6 years.
Yeah.
So I think this is a good question from a guy that we all know, Ken Jackson here. Fellas, does the coach matter? Just win. Would you rather go 8-4 with Gus/Levy or 11-1 or 12-0 with Jim Levitt? Betting UCF Twitter Mafia would pick the latter. First of all, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, Ken.
What does that mean?
Second of all, Jim Levitt could never go 11-0. He would go 6-0 and then 6-6. I mean,
what he's trying to ask is, would you rather take one of these guys with the offense and everyone likes the name brand, or someone who UCF fans really don't care for as much, that's not an offensive specialist? You lose the UC fast.
It's a preposterous question.
But part of hiring Gus Malzahn is that he's Gus effing Malzahn.
Bingo.
You hire him for the name.
Correct. No, and I do think I don't agree that, hey, if the people don't like the coach but he wins, that's okay. No, I actually disagree with that. I do think the coach has to relate to the fan base because, you can win all you want, but if people don't like you, and we saw this with George. George had his detractors. One of them might be in this room. We won't say who. But George won games, and the building didn't sell out either. So, because there was a percentage of the fan base that didn't like George for a lot of reasons we're not going to get into here. So the point is, okay, that's one of them, many reasons. But the point is, I don't agree. Like, Florida didn't like Will Muschamp, even though he got him to a Sugar Bowl. College sports, there is something to be said to win with style. One of the reasons why, yes, UCF went undefeated and people got all excited, but Scott Frost was likable. He was a young guy at the time. That helped from that standpoint.
Until the USF game couldn't draw flies.
Oh, yeah, correct. So winning doesn't, cure all that. But then they did struggle.
Oh, no, it did.
Helped the next year.
Since then, right?
Helped
attendance was up until obviously this year with COVID. But I mean, it sold out the stadium for the first time.
Right. So winning does, yes. Winning is what people want, but I don't think it's just automatic. Like you could just put a guy that people hate and automatically people would still watch it. I don't agree with that. I think people
not in a major market, and not in. I think we can now say that it's not at a school that has a national profile.
Right.
Correct. And that's the difference between now and 6-7 years ago. Like UCF's profile is national now. Okay, we've hit that hump. All right, so that's why this is significant. 6 years ago, I don't think that. I think you're right. That really wouldn't have mattered. Now it matters. All right, and I think we have to just be honest with ourselves about that. That UCF's national perception is a thing now.
Also, I think one of the big lines that came out of the press that's getting a lot of pub is he'll do anything within the power of the program to get this team and these players in the playoff, and we think we'll be in the Final Four in the CFP in a short time. I would like to say I don't really know how much power Gus Malzahn has over that. We have a pretty good body of evidence that shows if the system stays how it is, UCF is not going anywhere in the top 4. Okay.
The difference is we got a guy inside the house, baby, working for us. He knows what it works.
That's I hate saying this, but Murph is right. Like, I don't hate saying Murph is right because Murph is always right. But as long as the system is what it is, I mean, we've seen it.
Terry, but no, I disagree. Terry's already answered that question. He says you got to schedule tough, beat the team you're not supposed to beat.
Right. That's the more interesting point is what he's saying. What Terry Mohajir, I think, was saying today is, and I mentioned this earlier, the days of no 2-for-1s, that's over. Okay. That Danny White policy has officially been thrown into the round file. And I think it's the right call because, it was the biggest risk that Danny took that didn't pay off. And, at the time, it totally backfired. And at the time, we didn't know if it would backfire on him or not, but the evidence is now we can officially conclude it did. And you know what? I am fine with that. I am totally fine with Terry Mohajir scheduling 2-for-1s, and I think he made it clear that the one has to be at the bounce house. It's not going to be a 2 for neutral. It's going to be a 2-for-1. You're going to come to our place, all right? And he also made it clear that the 2 would include a bye game, all right? Which not BYE, BUY, where if you bug out of it, you're writing us a check.
Bingo. Yep.
And that's how you also build the financial solvency of the program. It's incredibly smart. It's one thing that, when we look back at it, it's nice to kind of be like, yeah, Danny, stick it to the man, but
he had no leverage.
He had no leverage at the time.
No leverage.
Well, and you got to do it you got to use blue bloods for that. And you got to be selective. I'm going to bring the dreaded rivals out. Well, north for me, west for you guys. USF's 2-for-1 with Alabama is basically a 1-1 bye. If you look at the payouts per game, the first 2 games, the home and home side of it is a very low payout for both schools, basically just washes. And then Alabama pays a buttload of cash to South Florida for them to come to Tuscaloosa for another game. That you're going to have to at least do. And if you stack them right, you space them out, you can have still, 6 home games a year. It's not going to kill your budget. But UCF under White wanted to create a budget based on 7 home games, which for a group of 5, school is not sustainable. You have to build it based on a 6, and then the 7 becomes a little bit of gravy on top of that. But you got to balance your budget on 6 games, and you can do that with 2-and-1s when you offset it with an FCS game, provided they're coming back to the fall eventually. And you can make that work.
And use the fact you have a right in your backyard, a neutral site game, Camping World, to your advantage. You could attract games that way too. It doesn't have to.
But I don't think they should do it at the expense of the home game at the bounce house.
No. You do a one-off. That's what I'm saying. I think Terry's, and I think let's not make it sound like he's just going to hand out 2-for-1s to Vanderbilt. Okay, it's not going to happen. What he's saying is he's open to ideas, and I think he was willing to come up with different ideas, what it means a one-off in a neutral field, whether it's playing whatever. I think he's more open to ideas, whereas Danny was not. Danny was either or.
Give me Auburn versus UCF at the Chick-fil-A kickoff next year.
Give me Auburn versus UCF at Camping World next year. That's what I want.
I don't know if Auburn would go for that. I was trying to be a little bit.
We already played them up there, and if they don't want it, we'll find somebody else.
Give me bad luck in Georgia.
Give me UCF at LSU at night at LSU, so Murph could just enjoy and embrace LSU tailgating. That's all I got.
Well. Here's the interesting thing that's going to be. Here's the thing that I think is going to be really interesting is we're going to find out real quick which programs are receptive to coming to UCF, because one of the arguments that we heard. Now I don't necessarily buy it, but one of the arguments that we heard was that UCF's visiting ticket allotment wasn't high enough for some programs to want to come here. And I don't buy that personally, because if you're getting the one home game, you can control all the tickets you want. So the heck with that. But, we're going to find out which schools are going to be open and amenable to that. To whatever. I forget what the actual visiting ticket allotment is
Well, I think
that's or at the best. But isn't it negotiable too?
Well, yeah. Obviously, the schools that they don't expect people to show up, like Temple when they were in the conference, UConn, schools that don't matter as much. They get a lower allotment, but a marquee game, like a Georgia Tech or a Texas or some other big school that has come there would get a larger allotment of tickets.
And here's another thing I just thought of too. This could provide, and I know we're in the middle of a pandemic and the economy going on, but this could provide a little bit of impetus to maybe expand the stadium at some point in the future.
Well, they were kicking that can for a while.
But if the argument to your donors is, hey, we would get Alabama, we would get LSU, we would get Clemson if we had enough room to put visiting fans. That's the only thing that was the holdup. Then you can go to your donors, you could go to your corporate sponsors and say, hey, we're going to expand the stadium so we can get these big opponents. This is what we need. Let's start fundraising for it.
Yeah, but you're talking, $10 million, range to be able to expand on that, and you don't have the demand to fill it yet. You have a waiting list, but not enough for 10,000 seats.
You do if you're getting LSU in town.
For a single game, but the single game is not going to pay for your stadium. You're not going to be able to get a marquee opponent like an LSU every single year. You're going to have to space those 2-for-1s out, or else you're going to start ending up with 5 games.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think that, assuming we play the game with a potential full house, do you think Boise State would sell out?
Sure.
No.
Okay.
No, I don't.
No.
No.
You don't think we'll get a sellout for that game?
Well, what climate are we in right now? Where are we at that point?
No, I'm asking you if we're able to have a full house on September the 4th. If COVID-19 is not an issue, do you think we would sell out against Boise State?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. If everything's okay, if we're good, the prices aren't jacked up or anything like that, yes, I think you could sell out because of the Gus curiosity. The only reason I pause is that's probably going to be a Thursday or Friday night game. So some people, but I think because of Gus,
I think that game is a shoo-in sellout right now because of the Gus factor.
I'm hesitant because I think there's going to be a percentage of people that are used to now not going to games and will just watch it at home. So I'm a little hesitant. I'm a little more hesitant on that. I think that after a college football season of limited attendance, that people are going to be like, I just want to get back to a game. I don't want to watch these Depends
games.
on the price. It depends on the price. You better not overprice the consumer because they won't. I think they have the advantage now. If you try to jack up the prices, they will stay home and watch it, and they can watch night shift right afterwards.
Hey, what do you think about getting Tennessee for a 2-for-1?
Well, wait, Jeff, that's not going to work because what was mentioned multiple times today was that they're looking for top 10 teams.
Oh,
yeah, not
shots fired. Shots fired from the USF Murph. From the USS Murph. Oh boy.
Yeah, they want top 10, not tap 10.
Wow. Man.
Ouch.
Okay.
Ouch. Rough crowd there. That's pretty good. All right, so let me ask you guys this. Let's talk about the elephant in the room because somebody asked a question referring to the comments of Cole Kubilik, who made a comment about a candidate that kind of try to backdoor themselves in there. And one of our people
pull up the tweet there. I think because I just want to make sure we get what Cole said correct.
Sure. Yep. Working on that. But what is your thought? I mean, what is your thoughts as far as the other candidates, as far as Gus? Because people are still asking about that. And one guy in particular, obviously Jeff Lebby, who obviously was the, they had this big hoopla over. But at the end of the day, I feel like, Murph, do you not agree with this? Gus was the number one choice from the beginning. I don't think this was I don't think this was an off the field, hey, we don't like Lebby, this or that. I think Gus was their guy. And they even said that in the presser. They even talked as early as last Sunday night, right?
Right. So when Terry found out that he was getting the AD job on Sunday night, that would be February 7th, one of the first people he called was Gus Malzahn to sort of gauge, not really interview him, but gauge his interest about taking this head coaching job. So they already touched base then and then came back to do their formal interviews. But even in that phone call on February 7th, Gus was adamant that he really, really, really was interested in this job. So I think Terry was actually pressed on that exact question about, was Gus your first guy? Was he really the number one guy and the only guy. And he wanted to be very respectful of the other candidates they did interview. But from the way he tells it, the TikTok that he laid out, it does seem like Gus was the number one man on his mind once he got the AD gig.
It kind of felt to me like he was kind of saying, like, I want to ask Gus, like at the start of the process, he's like, I'm going to at least ask Gus and see if he wants to come back first. And if not, I have a pretty good option. I have a bunch of options that I could go to, and probably Levy was at the top of his options, right? And it did feel like Terry wasn't 100% sure that Gus would say, I want to come back real quickly. But then when he called him, he was like, wow, okay, Gus wants in. All right, let's see if we can make this happen. But Eric, I want to know what you thought about this tweet from Cole Kubelic, the ESPN and SEC Network analyst who has been here to UCF several times for games and is pretty doggone well connected.
Very connected within the Auburn side with Gus and Auburn. He's covered them a lot. He does a radio show down south there, so he's very familiar with that. And I think this tweet's interesting. The UCF movement picked up steam when a candidate essentially removed himself, attempting to backdoor his way in. Terry wasn't having it. Let's go back to the last week. What did Terry say about telling what the players and fans about not getting married to one person? There's no question that both Cole Kubelic's comments and Terry's comments relates to the fact of Jeff Lebby and all the hoopla with him, which he orchestrated. And I think that's what Cole is talking about.
I don't think he orchestrated it quite to the degree that he did.
He reached out to former players. He reached out to former players. I've confirmed this. He's reached out to former players who then reached out to current players to put the big Jeff Lebby campaign out there. And look, that could work or it could backfire. And I think the sense it was that there was a lot of promoting for a thing where a guy that's been a coordinator for 10 games. Like, if you're confident in your abilities, you don't need all that stuff. And I do think that turned off some people. I really do. And I think that's where Cole Kubelik is talking about.
Well, the question I think becomes with regards to Lebby is what cost him that opportunity that he thought he had. To what extent he was doing it? Was it the maneuvering that he was doing to get it, or was it the fact that his past at Baylor is checkered? Let's just be honest about that.
Yeah,
and that's not going to
it's not going away.
If in that other universe, right, where Lebby is hired, that's not good. That's not going to reflect well. And Terry Mohajir would have to answer for why did you hire this guy when in his past at Baylor, this is what happened. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but because it's been widely reported, including by our SB Nation colleagues at our Daily Bears, which is the Baylor site. But I think that's a stain on Lebby that is going to remain on his record. And fair or not, it's there.
There's also a third factor. There's a third factor. He's called 10 games in his life as a coordinator. That's it. That hasn't stopped anybody. No, but if you look at this resume, are you going just blind resume? Are you going with a coach who's been a coordinator and is called 10 games in his career? Or are you going with a coach that has head coaching experience and has coached in a national title game? It's not even close.
Well,
it depends on a lot of other factors like price, availability, and so on.
Yeah. Well, and that was the other thing is price for number of games was not very attractive at all. I mean, Sean Lewis,
that's it right there.
Over down up in Kent State was being paid $480,000, and he's a head coach and with experience dealing with that stuff versus Lebby, who's making $1.2 million and has only called 10 games.
I think Lebby's buyout is one of the largest for an assistant coach in the country.
Right.
I think it rivals Randy Shannon.
That's another thing that made Malzahn so attractive is there's no buyout, no disconnect between switching from one school to another. There's no disruption. And buying coaches out and bringing them from one school to another is part of the business, but they didn't have to ruffle any feathers to pull that off.
Right.
I think that's a great point. I think it's a combination of those three things. And at the end of the day, look, there's people that question whether Jeff Lebby will ever be a head coach at in a relevant program. Like, he might go to Liberty and be a head coach. Cool, congrats. But as far
Hugh
as
Freeze has that job locked up,
right?
Yeah, and he
from
never
his hospital
had a chance
bed
for UCF.
But
never had a chance.
We don't know what Jeff Lebby is. Everybody keeps talking about, wow, he had this great deal, 10 games at Ole Miss. They went 5-5. They played a weak schedule. Like, we don't know. That's laying. He's been. Wait a
minute. They're in the SEC West. Didn't you just get done saying that the SEC West is the
and they
toughest
played
division in the
Vanderbilt.
country?
Yeah, but they played Vanderbilt in South Carolina. They scored 100 points.
Let's be consistent. Let's be consistent here.
Yeah, and Auburn beat them. So, scored more points. So I think Gus is the clear number one. Maybe Lebby would have been 2 or 3 if Gus says no. We'll never know that. But I do think Terry wanted a guy with head coaching experience. I don't think he wanted to kind of, and he kind of did that in his last hire at Arkansas State, going with Butch Jones, who had head coaching experience. And I got a sense, Murph, did you not get this sense with the way Terry talks? And Terry was an assistant football coach at one point under Glenn Mason at Kansas and things like that. Terry seems to me, he's the type that him and Gus will literally go to the Waffle House and talk football and X's and O's. Like, he's going to beat – don't you think so? Like, they're both invested in football. Like, I feel like there's, by the
Waffle House is pretty sacred ground for Malzahn. I feel like
that's where Gus gets away from football.
That's decompression Malzahn right there. You got to go to the Waffle House at midnight with your wife and celebrate a W. You're not bringing along your boss.
I was kind of hoping we could do the radio coaches.
Maybe they are, but like, they're not going to talk about football. They're going to talk about like how the kids are doing. All that kind of stuff.
Possibly.
Like,
I feel like Gus.
By the way, the nearest Waffle House to UCF is the one on the corner of Alafay and Colonial, the northwestern corner over there. It's right by that. Is it right by? What's that? A Days Inn over there?
It's changed a couple of times, hasn't it?
I think it's been knocked down a couple of times. Like since.
By the way, I got to read this.
I think it's a Holiday Inn or a Days Inn, or
they still have Holiday. They still have Holiday Inns now.
Don't we? Yeah, we sure do.
You get smarter when you stay at a Holiday Inn Express.
No, not. That's not going to pass. That's not going to go.
I tried that and failed miserably.
No, that joke died about 15 years ago.
By the way, I got to read this, Dylan. I got to read this from Dylan. This is great. Or one of our people tuning in. A great audience. Keep the questions, comments. Danny White truly did care about us. He sacrificed himself to the Tennessee Vols so he could remove Josh from the program and pay us to do so. We could get an upgrade at the head coach and a great AD. Bless his soul.
That's outstanding. I mean, listen, no, I don't begrudge Danny White or Josh Heupel for leaving UCF one bit. As far as I'm concerned, they have every right to go. When a school with that kind of financial profile throws that much money at those guys, you know what? Go. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. That's fine. But I'm amazed at the fact that, like, don't you, that the national profile of this was like, it was, can you believe that UCF lost their AD and their head coach this late in the season, this late in the process, in January and February, and upgraded?
Yeah.
It's really unbelievable when you think about it.
President
Cartwright is a gangster. He's an absolute gangster.
He won the lottery. Yeah, and that, where else is that going to happen? I mean, that doesn't normally happen anywhere.
Ken Jackson just reached back to us. He's like, listen, we have Kiki's and First Watch, a product of UCF alums. Fair.
I have friends here. Waffle House is sacred to some people.
Listen,
it's like
we're gonna end up
God's chicken. You just don't mess with people.
We're gonna end up starting a Waffle House war in the comment section of this in about 5 seconds. Yeah,
I mean, it's important.
Raise your hand out there in the chat if you've been to a Huddle House. That's how you know. That's how you know you've been in the South.
It's important to him to go to a Waffle House. It ties him back to his youth.
Yeah, as a high school coach.
I mean, Waffle Houses
I appreciate the tradition. If that's his personal tradition, Gus, keep on going. And you know something? We need a Waffle House. If that's the case, maybe we need a Waffle House a little north of campus.
Is there a chance the Bounce House gets changed to the Waffle House as a sponsor for the stadium? Can we do that?
Well,
Can we
they do need a sponsor.
But
do you really
you
really want the stadium called the Waffle House?
Can we just do the radio show from there? Give me something.
The best Waffle House indication I know is that the seat. What is it? FEMA. FEMA actually has a Waffle House index. Mm-hmm. You know about this, Drew?
Oh yeah, I was about to say something about how they're important.
Where like how they figure how bad a natural disaster is based on how quickly Waffle Houses open in that area.
There's 3 categories. If they have their full menu, things are okay. If they have issues and they're only able to run a limited menu because they have gas and that's a backup to be able to run.
Right. And they just can't get supplies in, right?
If they can't open, send the National Guard. You have a problem.
Yes. If the Waffle House is not open, you get somebody there now.
Oh yeah,
airdrops are required.
All right. I could tell by Murph's reaction here. He's not really thrilled with his Waffle House.
This is real though. The FEMA categorization.
This is a real thing. Yes,
the Waffle House is real. We're not making it up.
I know it's real. I know what you're talking about, and you're talking about Waffle House way too damn much.
I kind of agree. We've kind of jumped to shore. I want to.
This is exactly why we do this show, and I love it.
I want to address some other questions.
Like food.
Food's good. That's what I'm saying. Put the radio show on the Waffle House. Kind of like Lunch with George. Remember Lunch with George? But he used to do it. We had Chick-fil-A. It was great. It was a good time.
Chick-fil-A, you can get that in a package of a meal. But what are you going to do? Slap a plate of waffles and some syrup in front of someone when they sit down for the press conference?
Morning with Gus. It could work.
Really?
Maybe. All right, we'll put that on we'll table that aside. One of the people asking questions about the roster, player reaction, any concerns of transfers, and one guy in particular people addressing.
Okay,
Jeff,
no. I don't want to address this because I don't know. I really don't know enough about it. I woke up late and I didn't really follow what was going on. Do you guys have what was?
I mean,
Drew.
I know what happened because I was up working until 3:30 in the morning last night, so I saw it all go down.
I'm old, so I went to bed early. I don't fill me in because I'm still trying to digest it.
Well, basically, Dylan Gabriel's Instagram got cleared out. All UCF references and everything got cleared out, and then it got put back. And everyone in between point A and point B, everyone on every UCF on the Twitterverse is losing their collective minds.
When did this happen?
At some point last night. I don't remember the exact time.
Late last night, around midnight or so?
Well, I mean, if it was, normally you go to bed at 7:30. So, I mean, it was some point after that.
Not that early. Come on.
But, I mean, it wasn't overly late, but I mean, it's probably 11 range. So, I mean, there were still a lot of people up. But everyone's just losing their mind. What's going on? Oh, my God. It's, they know a new coach is being brought in. Word has gotten around. It's not Levy. It's going to be Gus Malzahn at this point, even though it wasn't confirmed. And then this happened, and people were just in full panic mode. And Jeff, you talk about you panicking. Holy moly, that was the dumbest night on social media I have ever seen. That's the only way. It was dumber beyond word. I mean, I didn't buy into any of it, but I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Okay, so what was the end result of this? So apparently
he put the pictures, put
the pictures back up.
He only follows 2 people on Twitter, which is Jeff Levy and Kevin Smith. Everyone's like, oh no, now he's gonna leave, blah blah blah, and then it just only snowballed this morning as people were wake up and like you who go to bed at 6:00 in the evening and just lose their collective
my bedtime is
garbage.
Regressing, Murph. You see that? It was 7:30, now it's 6.
And then losing
Well,
the
let's be honest,
garbage.
we're all getting older as this show goes on.
Exactly. I mean, I'm 38. I'm creeping on 40.
So, listen, here's what I know about Gus Malzahn's offense, and I got to thank our buddy Anthony Lenahan, who found this in his travels. And I want to see if I can put this up here because he showed the heat map of Josh Heupel's offense and where passes were thrown to Gus Malzahn's offense. It was Seth Galena, PFF_Seth on Twitter. I think I retweeted it, and we retweeted from the Banner Ad account. I'm going to see if we can try and get it back up here. Elo, if you can pop this back up, I'm going to drop it in the internal chat. But like they showed the heat map of where Josh Heupel's offense threw, all routes to all players, where they threw more than the average in the country and less than the average in the country. And Heupel is all outside the numbers.
It's all
past the line of scrimmage, outside the numbers. Just big old hunks of red with blue in the middle of the field and behind the line of scrimmage. And then you look at Gus. They're all routes, all players, above average, middle of the field, a little bit, around the hash marks, a little bit above average, around 5 yards past the line of scrimmage, a lot of seam routes and a fair amount of deep routes in wider spaces out in the field. Like if you're a quarterback, right? And there it is. Thank you, Eric. If you're a quarterback and you're seeing this chart of what your offense is going to do, I'm licking my chops, man. I mean, this is more than what what I bargained for.
You can see the well-developed lines, 5 yards, 10 yards, 15 yards.
Mm-hmm.
But also recognize that when you go 20 yards downfield, there's still an equal shade of red down the sidelines. He will still take basically the same amount of deep shots down the sidelines, like deeper down the field. He won't do the wide receiver screens as much, but he'll still take the deep shots and then supplement that with your crossing routes, your seam routes, your screens, stuff over the field.
That's why I would have. There's no amount of money that I would not have paid to be a fly on the wall when Gus went and spoke to the players, just so I could hear what he said and then see their reactions to it. And I think we saw, and Danny Medina, a tremendous thanks to her for collecting some social media reaction from the players and publishing it throughout the day on blackandgoldbanneret.com. She is the miracle worker. And
Danny Bomb, hashtag Danny Bomb. Whoa, she got nothing on her.
And she kept asking me about it, and I was like, "Listen, hold up until like Gus. We think Gus gets out of that meeting because we're probably going to get a flurry right before the press conference." And lo and behold, we did. And I saw, and I think a lot of UCF fans who were seeing the social media reaction through the day, there was quite a bit of apprehension, I think, on social before Gus got introduced. After that meeting, things really switched. So I'm really, and I think they're going to continue to switch because once we start getting the new staff members in,
and that's what kind of makes this whole social media thing just seem even that much more ridiculous, because this was all stuff the night before. Nothing actually happened. They never got a chance to talk. Yeah, sure. Even when I was in my mid-20s, I would, get ticked off about something and react a little rashly. But I mean, they're going to have one-on-one sit-downs and kind of figure out, okay, who am I and what am I going to do? I think this was all overblown.
Well, let me ask you this, though. To what extent do you think it was blowback from the Peach Bowl?
Well, I mean, there are people that subscribe just like you did, where they basically put all their opinion on a single game and didn't look at the whole body of work.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
And I would say that was a large group. And if you followed social media during the day, once the presser happened, people's opinions, on what they were saying changed. They're like, you know what? I acted, I kind of, bought into what he said. I kind of stopped and I kind of looked into things. The truth is, I mean, the guy's got a great track record. It was just a game, and he admitted UCF was better. They beat them. By
the way, he said it wasn't a fluke. Boy,
it wasn't a fluke.
He put that to bed right away. He put that to bed right there in the press conference.
He said people asked. He actually said people asked if we wanted to play. Of course we wanted to play. They were better that day. They took it to us. Like, all right, that answers that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, perfect. I mean, don't beat around the bush. Put it to rest so that you can get your work done. Because that's why you're here. But when it comes down to it, I mean, it was just everyone put in most people's cases, Jeff Lebby on this giant pedestal that's been pushed higher and higher from these
for no reason,
outlandish expectations.
No, for a good reason, because he recruited a lot of the players who were there.
Yeah,
and that the bond between a player and the coach that recruits you is a strong one.
Great, he recruited some of the players there.
Yeah,
he didn't recruit them all, but I mean, you, even though you're still on staff, you're going to interact with them all. So he may not have recruited them all, but he still interacted. I understand that, but the fans just kind of went into it became kind of a mob thing where it just kind of became its own. It kind of spread virally, and so he gets put on this ridiculously high pedestal. I don't think even if he came here, he was going to be able to meet the expectations that were being developed. I mean, it was basically like the man was going to have to walk on water to meet expectations. And then to have the rug pulled out and find out, oh, it's not him, send people crashing down, and they crashed hard. They don't call them fanatics for nothing.
Fan is short for fanatic.
I don't know how many people in this fan base really, 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 really cared about Jeff Lebby being the head coach one way or the other before the deluge of "We Want Lebby" started trending on Twitter from UCF players. Okay, I don't know if they were really sold on Lebby, and then what sold them really was the players' own tweets, and so that their natural support as fans and supporting those players because those players play for their team. They want to do what's best for those players. They want what those players want, and those players apparently want Lebby. So in turn, vis-a-vis, we want Lebby. But like when he doesn't get the gig, it's not like they feel badly that he wasn't the guy. They feel badly that maybe the players would be disappointed, and that's where we get this panic about, oh no, is Dylan going to transfer? I really think that people. I think we saw a little bit this last night. It started to emerge and thaw out. That once we put a poll up, Jeffrey, about are people on the Gus bus, the response seemed to be pretty positive. And I think that is sort of continued throughout the day where people sort of came around where like realizing like we actually might have the better hire here. Again, the results will determine everything. But I think ultimately people were mad because their favorite players didn't get the coach that they actually pined for on Twitter, not that he was the best coach that they could have signed, they could have gotten.
Go ahead and hit your vote, Eric. Come on, we know what it is.
Gus bus?
Are you on the Gus bus? Yeah, you are. Look at that.
Woohoo!
Now, if you told me like at 8:00 this morning that's how it would have broken down, I would have been surprised. Because based on the reaction that I was reading,
that press conference was fantastic. Like, how could you not be excited?
Well, no, we ran. Look when we ran this conference. Look when we ran this poll, though, Eric. It was at 10:27 a.m.
Yeah, but people have been voting all day.
And it was overwhelming yes long prior to.
Well, I think common sense prevails. At the end of the day, common sense. I think we get caught up in social media, quick, instant reaction, and things like that, and people don't think about it for a few minutes and then realize. And I think everybody saw, hey, everybody likes this hire. The national media. I've never seen a national media like it was today at the presser. That was insane.
I've never seen.
Well, we didn't see any of them because they were all on Zoom.
Well, see anyone.
But that was like a big deal. This is a big national story. And the thing I like, and I've talked to people, this guy's a very genuine guy. And that's been a theme here with the new AD and the new heads. It's all genuine people. And I think that does resonate. That does connect with people. I mean, I saw, what was it? Last night, an Auburn writer who got unfortunately, he got let go from The Athletic because budget cuts. He tweeted out that the first people that reached out to him when he lost his job in The Athletic, he was covering Auburn Athletics, was his family. The second person that reached out to him was Gus Malzahn. Now think about that. For a coach to reach out to a guy that's been working on Athletes Unlimited, reach out in a tough moment, I think that just speaks to the genuine that this guy is. And I think that rubs off on people, and I think you're going to get more casual people actually that will root for UCF because of that. Gus, I think there was an article written today where he dealt with COVID and he got fired and he wanted to get back up. People like guys to bounce back. And I'm rooting for the guy. Everybody I've talked to that's covered him says he's a genuine great guy. And I think that's going to rub off on people.
I have friends who are Alabama fans who are like, dude, you got an awesome guy coming to Orlando. Alabama fans I get
a little worried about Alabama fans like, you got a great guy, you know what I mean?
they've been afraid of him. They've been afraid of him.
He has had Saban's number more than, to the extent that one can have Saban's number more than anyone. Was it? He's won 3 games against Saban. The rest of the SEC has won 3 games against Saban. Is that right?
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. Like Urban Meyer beat him a couple times. Hugh Freeze beat him a couple times, but Hugh Freeze needed escorts to do that. So to get players. So Gus did it on the up and up. So I look, man, I think he did a lot of good things at Auburn. I think his credential speaks for itself. And he's a genuine guy, and he's got a personality. I think that he checks all the boxes. Will it work? Who knows? Sports is weird that way, right? Like, you never know. The guy you think is the perfect guy sometimes doesn't work out. The guy that's disaster. Things happen. Injuries happen. But I think at the end of the day, there's reason for excitement and optimism. I think this is a day where the program grew up to a different level now. And I think we're seeing that before our very eyes. I think we should be proud of that.
Again, this is the coach that you need to hire if you want to take your emerging national brand and put it on a different level, not a P5 level. I'm talking just metaphorically a different image level. The Gus Malzahn helps you in that effort. And this is what they're aiming to do. So the fans want that. The fans have been pining for years to be. We want our respect. We want national recognition. We want people to know who we are and all that stuff. You've now got a man who was the offensive coordinator of a national title team with Cam Newton, has beat Alabama 3 times. Everyone knows who he is. He's a fantastic recruiter. He's now your head coach. His name means something in the lexicon of college football. That raises your brand.
Which also helps.
Right.
That's going to be TV. I guarantee you, Gene Wojciechowski, who will probably replace Tom Rinaldi as the features guy on College Game Day, he's probably going to come down to Orlando, do a Gus feature. UCF's probably going to get more exposure because of Gus. Like that opener against Boise State, there's going to be a lot that attention on Gus. This is
that
big.
Game was going to be big to begin with.
Well, it just amplified.
Gigantic.
Yeah, that's right.
By the way, it'll be the coaching debut for the head coaches of both UCF and Boise State, and Boise State's guy replaces Brian Harsin, who went to Auburn to replace Gus Malzahn.
Yeah, I love that.
So it's funny how it all comes full circle.
Murph, you had a comment? You were going to ask her a question?
Well, I was wondering if Malzahn is a big Feinbaum guy. Do we see Malzahn a lot of Feinbaum?
I do think he will be on there. In fact, I watched Feinbaum. He did a chunk of, ironically, had Harsin on the show, but he did talk a lot. I mean, that was a main topic on the show. And yes, I do think he's going to have Guts on here in the future.
Are we is UCF like the favorite bugaboo of Paul Feinbaum? Does he just have UCF content on the show just to troll his audience?
Well, Paul was
because he knows how much Tammy from Bammy and everybody just love to hate UCF.
Yeah, I think that's gone. I think that's gone now with Gus. I really do. I think Gus changes that narrative.
UCF kept Saturday Down South, up and running.
That will never go away.
And Mike kept putting, Paul Feinbaum kept putting Mike Oresco on his show because Mike Oresco never saw a microphone that he didn't want to be in a serious relationship with.
Great segue, Murph. Speaking of which, Mike Oresco addressed this hire, didn't he?
Yes, he did, and it was narcolepsy.
Mike Oresco off the top rope too.
Yeah, it was narcoleptic literature. He just basically said like he was glad for the hire, and it was the most dry comment of all time. I mean, really, the man could not sound less excited.
By the way, we mentioned the contract earlier. He's making like 2.3. You realize that Dana Hogerson's making $4 million at Houston in comparison?
Trash.
I mean, if you're a Houston fan, what are you thinking, right? Like, wait a minute. They got him at a less bargain, man. Come on.
Well, I mean, next year I think is the year that Houston really is supposed to hit the gas pedal, I think.
By the way, this is no, I disagree with Jeff. I think the narrative is going to change at UCF. Even Barrett Saleh, who has been one of the most negative anti-UCF guys, was on Feinbaum, and Ken Jackson, I'm glad you brought it up. He complimented this. They all were positive. People like Gus. they kind of root for Gus to do well. The whole Auburn thing was just a story narrative because the Auburn boosters can't handle the fact that they are the equation in the state of Alabama to what the Mets are in New York to the Yankees. They're never going to be Alabama. They can't accept that. And I think that's the issue in Auburn. But I think I think people generally like Gus and respect Gus, what he's done. You have to. The body of work speaks for itself.
So do they actually start rooting for UCF quietly? I mean, or are they just going to implode from the logic circle?
No, I think they will. And I'm going to tell you why. Because that's going to make Auburn look bad, and that's good narrative. And it'll make Tennessee look bad. Like, people have already taken shots about Tennessee. Like, Dan Wilkins
doesn't need help to look bad. They there's nothing UCF does.
Tennessee, and I mean this in the strongest terms possible, with all of the baggage associated with this term. Tennessee is too big to fail.
Yeah,
Tennessee is too big to fail.
We'll see.
So
also, Auburn fans would only root for Malzahn depending on how good of a job Harsin does.
Exactly. That's the narrative. There's going to be that chatter, right?
Because again, let's not forget there was some diabolical scheming for years to get him Malzahn out of Auburn. So it's not like
last 3 seasons.
3 seasons. Yeah, it was really atrocious too.
Not only that, I think because I've seen comments about what happened to last year's team. People forget he had Bo Nix as his starting quarterback, his dad was a legendary Auburn quarterback and a booster. Patrick Nix. There's a lot of pressure to play the kid Nix. And, that's the kind of stuff he was dealing with. And so I don't think he's going to have to deal with that nonsense here. I think he's genuinely excited about this opportunity. And I root for the guy. I think he's an innovative guy. He's an innovative coach. He was successful in the toughest conference, in the toughest division in the college football, period. And now he's here in the American. I think you're excited if you're from the UCF standpoint. You're going to compete for, as they said, conference championships and playoffs. They're not hiding from the expectations. They're not hiding it. They're not ducking it. They believe they can make the playoffs. You guys may not believe it, but they do believe there's a way to get in, and they've managed to say that.
I don't know if they believe it, but you have to say it with conviction.
Correct, which they have.
They have done that. They've done that. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean you believe it.
Interesting point that I wanted to talk about with salaries here. And our friends at Fear the Wave actually brought this up. Highest paid coach in the American, like you mentioned, Dana Holgorsen, $3.8 million at Houston. Number 2, Luke Fickell at Cincy, still $3.2 million. Gus Malzahn is now tied with Ken Niumatalolo at Navy at $2.3 million for the 3rd highest in the American.
Let me ask a question here. People asking, do you think UCF will be ranked as a result of Gus being the head coach? That's an interesting twist, right? The opposite of what happened when Josh got hired and people knocked UCF in rankings because, it was all Scott Frost. This is the complete opposite. Do they get too much credit because of who the head coach is? It's an interesting question. What do you guys think?
Let's see how the offseason goes.
Yeah, they get credit because they've got Dylan Gabriel coming back. But
thank you to Richard who asked the question, by the way. Go ahead, Berth.
I mean, I don't know. And oh God, here we go again. Those preseason rankings don't matter either. So I mean, I don't really care. Thanks for asking though. But no, it's hard to say because I don't know what 20 to 25 looks like in college football in 2021. You'll get credit because you have Dylan Gabriel. You'll get credit because of the image of this offense being high powered and high scoring. But we know there's a lot of pieces to replace at the skill positions. Gus Malzahn wins you a few points, but ultimately, it doesn't matter if they come in at 25 or 27 or 23. No.
Yeah, we get on Bill Steele's magazine. Here's
what I think. They're going to at least be receiving votes. I don't know if we'll be ranked to start the season in the AP top 25, and that's the one that I pay attention to because it's the AP and it's not the coaches. I think Ricardo or Richard brought up a great point that if we're not ranked, we could get into the top 25 sooner because there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on Gus. It's no longer we don't go from the afterthought because Frost left. Now we have a new head coach. It's Gus Malzahn's at UCF. So I think maybe that provides a little bit of credit. But again, going back to what you said, Murph, the AP poll doesn't matter. the only thing that matters is the CFP poll.
And we've already been through this about, well, if you're in good position in the preseason AP poll where you're ranked inside the top 20, maybe that helps you get a head start to getting into the playoff. It doesn't though, because the system won't allow it.
Right. So, but it's something to think about. I don't know. Let's just get through that first game at home against Boise. Like, I don't know how Boise's going to look coming into that game. Right.
I just want to get through spring ball.
Yeah. Let's
start
get through
small.
that. We had some questions on Twitter, Eric. Do you want to get to some of those?
I am going to get there right now.
I got it in the tweet. I just sent it to you in the private chat. So Garrett Weiss had a bunch of questions. I think JP had a question. Our buddy JP Gilbert, the counselor in chief.
All right, there you go. Everybody keeps asking about the DC. I think we kind of addressed that earlier.
Let's readdress that for anybody who didn't miss it. I thought that, like I said, Gus was very diplomatic, as one would be. I did not come away from that question about Randy Shannon feeling optimistic about Randy staying here. Now, I could be, we could still be surprised. And listen, props to Randy for running the program. In the meantime, I still do think that Randy is a very good coach. I think that he got a little bit railroaded by COVID this year. I mean, we saw it in the proof was in the pudding. 12 players had their first career starts this season. And the side of the ball that got hit the worst by the COVID opt-outs and all the other things that happened was the defense. And like it or not, that matters. When you lose that much experience, like college football, production is based on experience. Experience matters. If anything proved it, it was like, look back at what Mackenzie Milton did from his first year compared to his second year. And it's about, I don't know if Randy's going to be back. We don't know, but we're probably going to find out pretty quickly.
Between the you're going to find out.
Yeah.
Between the opt-outs and then what happened in November, where you had 3 defensive starters off the team, and then the bowl game opt-outs. This defense was a complete pencil thin outline of what it should have been at the start of the year. So they
were held together with duct tape and chicken wire, and
MacGyver would be proud.
Yeah, and it would.
But I think, Andrew, you've been critical even with whatever players they had on the roster about the scheme that Randy ran.
Well, they ran a nickel, a constant nickel, and when you start getting your defensive backs absolutely gutted, he almost got forced into it because there just wasn't no one left. But you had 4 linemen that just weren't creating much pressure. You had 2 linebackers that just were overwhelmed because they were covering everything else, and then you had a bunch of defensive backs who had no game experience.
Well, I think that's one of the things where you prepare for the entire season as it was, and the DBs. Like, remember what we thought at the end of last season, we thought the DBs would be the strongest part of the defense, and then lo and behold, COVID hits, opt-outs hit, Bam Moore got hurt, and then the whole thing kind of blew up, and then all of a sudden the front 6 became sort of the epicenter of the defense. And by the way, Dylan, tell Richard I said hey. But yeah, I don't know what's going to happen. I think I hate to say, like, we might have seen the writing on the wall with Gus's answer. But again, I'm not. I don't know.
Is that sparkling grape juice?
That's right. That's right. Celebrating right there. Tonight's a great night to celebrate. Murph, come on. Where's your drink, Murph? Come on.
Wait, is there alcohol in that?
It's sparkling grape juice. No.
Sparkling.
No.
It's a good prop, though. It's a good prop.
There's some other really good questions that I wanted to get here.
Garrett has some questions bringing you up.
How is Jeff feeling? He was first of all, I was not anti-Gus. I was pro other guys, but I'm on the Gus bus 100%. Who's the OC?
Nobody.
Well, the big thing there is he's going to call his own plays.
Plays.
Yeah, which didn't happen. People forget this. That didn't happen last year. Chad Morris called plays. And in fact, some people, there was an article, I think Pete Thamel wrote about it, that some of the coaches were surprised that Gus let Chad call as many plays as he did and didn't take over the offense because the offense was struggling. So I thought that was actually noteworthy that he says he's calling plays. That's what he likes to do. So I don't know who's the offensive coordinator going to be, but whoever it is ain't going to be calling plays.
Yeah, he talked about hiring a QB coach, but he didn't say anything about an offensive coordinator, and he specifically left that one out of the big coaches when he was mentioning stuff.
Does that concern you guys? Because that's what Heupel did.
No, only for the fact of he's done this before and he's been successful doing it before, so he knows what he's doing. It's not like Heupel, first-time head coach who was a little bit in over his head at that point.
Yeah, all right. I see what you mean.
He's got the experience.
How many games does he need? This is another question from Garrett Weiss, Strength of Spear on Twitter. How many games does he need to win to be considered a success to UCF fans? Parentheses. Fanatics. If you're talking first year,
they has to win a national championship to satisfy that beast.
Hey, it would be the second for both of us. It'd be the second.
I think it would have to be. I think it's way too early to start.
CFP or bust.
Yes.
I'll give Gus credit. Gus was asked directly by Brandon Hellwig of Rivals about UCF's 2017 national championship claim after they beat them in the Peach Bowl, and he goes, well, we were pretty good and they beat us, and we beat a team that was pretty good, so I don't know. And then he got
and then he said, I should have been more prepared for this question.
Yeah, because Brandon asked two questions. That was his second question, and Gus was so flustered by it, he forgot what the first question was. He had to step away from the podium and go, I should have been better prepared for that. I knew that was coming. So
did he have to repeat the first question after that?
He did. What else? So how many games do you think it would take for Gus's first season to be considered a success? I don't think it's wins. I think it's, are you a contender for the East Division or not?
I think if he wins a conference and goes to won the near 6 in his first year, that stamps the success at that point. If you,
I think he deserves. I still think though they need a curve, based on the new system. We saw what happened with transitions from one system to another, and I know that
fan base cares not about transitions. They care about results.
They should. I mean, the transition from Frost
to Heupel wasn't very. It was undefeated season. They went to the Fiesta Bowl. Not a good one. Not a good comparison, Jeff.
Jeff,
and Mike brought up a good point, and I do have to correct myself. That's right. There's no divisions in the American this year.
No, I think
I forgot all about that.
We got to see how the roster looks like, because to suggest that this roster is going to look exactly like this in July is nonsense. They're going to add players. There's going to be subtractions. So I think that's one of those you got to wait and see type of deal. But I mean, they're probably going to be a top 3 pick in the league, probably Cincinnati. And I think a lot of people are going to pick SMU. They've had a good recruiting class. They got a transfer quarterback coming in. So those are probably your top teams, contenders for the league. I think it's those 3 teams. And look, the bar in this program is not going to change whoever the coach is. You got to at least start with winning the league. Now, the whole undefeated thing, whatever. But win the league. I think that's where it starts. And because the American does not have the greatest slots for bowl games, if you don't win your league, heck, if you win your league, you still don't have great slots. Let's be honest. The only game that people care about in the postseason is New Year's 6. Nobody cares about Boca. We saw that. Nobody cares about Gasparilla. Nothing. Please go get rid of it.
The Bourbon Bowl is very important.
Bourbon Bowl.
But no, here's the thing. You talk about setting the bar. Heupel has this great 2018, and all it actually did, when you go fast forward a couple of years and you see the fall from grace, all it did was actually diminish what Frost did, because it proved that, hey, maybe it's just the players more so than the coaches. You had 2 different philosophies. You went from a spread to an air raid, and you were 1 injury short of probably running the table again. So I mean,
I see what you mean.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't know.
I would disagree. I would think it enhanced Frost, because everybody said it did it with Frost's players.
Which I've said a lot.
Frost players were O'Leary's players. I mean, you can play that game to the cows.
That's what made Frost great. He won with his own players and Georgia's players. I mean,
Georgia's players were good. I mean, that was the best. That was the most talented winless team I've ever seen.
Yeah, and Scott used it better than George did. He played the Griffin brothers when George refused to play them.
Right. We can't give George the credit for the 2 most impactful players. Shaquem Griffin, who he didn't want on the team, and Mackenzie Milton, who he didn't recruit. So those 2 players.
Well, yeah, he wasn't available at that time.
Well, let me ask you this though, and I'm curious about this, because I think back to the players were thinking about the transition. So one thing that I remembered everybody saying from when the transition happened between George O'Leary and Scott Frost was the players. I think, who was it that said this? Was it Dave Lamont? Eric? I think he said that the players were like, we just want to enjoy football again. And we're enjoying playing football again.
Yeah, they didn't have joy in the last year in the George there. Yeah.
Do we feel as though it wasn't quite, obviously it wasn't quite as joyless as that, but I do feel like the players thought that there was that there needed to be a change.
Yes.
And in some way.
Yeah,
there was a lot of so how would we characterize that change from Josh Heupel to Gus Malzahn? What is the Gus version of I need to make my players like football again?
Well, I think Terry mentioned that, didn't he, Brian, about the fact he spoke to the players and he relayed that to Gus, basically saying, hey, these are people. They're not just football players. That, he mentioned that they're teachers. They can help them. I think there's a relationship between coach and player that maybe wasn't tight with Josh and the players. That's just reading into it there.
And so those words to me are like eyewash, because that's all Josh talked about for years was like family atmosphere, family. And then guys who were leaving the program going like, they didn't really care about us. Well, that's great. But now, so you're going to like, well, I'm bringing in Gus because we want to create a family atmosphere. Again, you can say words with conviction. That doesn't actually mean that it's going to happen and you believe it. Like, I want to see the results of this. Like, great. They brought in the guy they think is going to create a family atmosphere. We heard that from the last guy over and over and over again.
Well, no. To be fair, and we've heard this from former players, Eric, and I think you probably heard it too, Brian, that was the one thing about Scott Frost that I think the former players thought he was really excellent at was they really believed that Scott Frost cared about them as people.
We had Trey Neal on the show. We had Trey Neal break it down.
Trey Neal's told us that, and I think that was really, and when it really did feel genuine in that respect. And I think with Heupel, that kind of went away. I think that Josh was just a little too awkward in his attempts to try and capture that. Like we saw like the team activities and stuff, but it just kind of wasn't in Josh to do that. It just wasn't his personality.
But I'll defend Josh in this. Some of that is, hey, Frost recruited me. I don't really, buy into what you're telling me. Some of that sometimes is that. To Murph's point, if this team is winning 20 games in a row, how much of this stuff really, how much of this really being chattered? Like nobody was
talk for
right.
Product. I mean, Ponderosa claims to be a family restaurant, but the food is crap. You can talk until you can say whatever.
Great
but
line.
I mean, it's all about action and backup. And we talk about family, but if there's no action of family, then obviously the words are hollow and mean nothing.
Right. Well, and the players know that better than anybody else. Like you can't fool them.
Also,
right?
winning is like the greatest of all. Is like the greatest of all of anyway. So if you win, everyone loves each other.
Everybody gets along when they win, except the 78 Yankees. That's the only team that's won that never got along. Right, Murph?
The 86 Mets kind of hate each other.
There were some Laker teams in the early 2000s that weren't too great with each other.
Oh, yeah. Well,
man, they're all Murph's favorite teams, too. What is that?
Sorry, I know Murph. Yeah.
But so we'll see. I don't know about all that. I mean, we'll see. What somebody made a comment here. What did you guys think? Gus, that Terry said that Gus has a Fortune 50 connections with players. Right. Your thoughts on that? A good sell to recruits for future non-NFL jobs.
500.
Yeah,
right.
so,
I like. What do you think about that comment there?
Because a lot of what Terry Mohajir's been trying to sell in his first couple of weeks is that the program they had at Arkansas State, the 100% either graduation rate or job rate for those, or grad school rate or job rate for athletes who graduated out of the program. And that's what he wants to bring to UCF. And so he's trying to highlight there that with Gus's connections to Fortune 500 executives, he's got tie-ins with people who can help these athletes get jobs once they graduate from the program.
I mean, I love that program. Aside from the fact that UCF already had a stellar academic reputation in athletics, but that just adds to it. To bring that program to UCF is just absolutely huge. You hear the commercials all the time about NCAA athletes and most of them not being, pro athletes. And we care about academics. That was probably George O'Leary's best contribution to UCF was he put the student in student athlete.
Agree.
And every other sport picked up on it. It started with football and it just exploded. And then when Danny White came into town, he took that and ran with it. And the academic results have just been outstanding for a public school where UCF's one of the top in the country for athletics. Some of the private schools are better, but I mean for public, UCF's routinely in the top 10.
Yeah. And
to add a program like that, and some of these kids get the big picture. They know, okay, I need to plan ahead too, because even a pro athlete career only goes so far. Academics is part why some athletes come here. Not all of them, but some, and to have that program in place just makes it that much more of an attractive option.
That I do want to emphasize what you said there, Drew, because for all of us love to take our own individual shots at George O'Leary in one way or the other, right? But the one thing that that he was excellent at was emphasizing that his players graduate. And UCF football's GPA was among the highest in the country. Among football teams that that we saw, the graduation rate was one of the highest, and it was one of the highest in the country. And he really emphasized that, like in-house, like I saw it personally. He emphasized that to not just his current players, but also former players who didn't play for him, who maybe left early or whatnot. I know that he had a hand in Brandon Marshall coming back and finishing.
What about Kevin Smith? Kevin Smith
came back, convinced Kevin to come back and be a grad assistant, and because he wanted him to finish his degree.
Without that, he's not a coach right now. He's not.
And he had and Dante Culpepper too. Like Dante didn't finish his degree. O'Leary offered him to come back and finish his degree. So that's that's something that I think we should give George O'Leary a lot of credit for, and that's what I really enjoy seeing about Terry Mohajir's plan of that, like you said, that 100% graduation / grad school placement rate. That's what you want. I don't think that should be seen as oh boy, that would be a nice to achieve goal. That should be like, no, that is our goal. And if we don't achieve that, we failed we failed and we need to fix something.
Right. He wants to get every graduate athlete into either a job or a grad school program. That's all.
Recap today with a GIF from UCF_football. Eric, which one are you using? Is it the one of the minions going like, yeah?
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, that would be the way I would go with that. Yeah, I think it's been a fun day. It's been a fun day. That was the most exciting UCF football press conference probably since 2017, maybe the most dramatic, exciting since the 2017 American Conference Championship Saturday that Murph and I were at, where we covered a championship, and then like 30 minutes later we covered a coaching resigning press conference. That's still number all time.
When you have got a coach who wins the championship and then 30 minutes later is crying tears of sadness, because he's got to move on. It's pretty wild.
Someone tell Sam to calm down.
Sam, it's almost baseball. It's almost baseball season, my man.
Sam, Danny, yeah, right on the money. That's
about right.
That's how I feel. That's about right.
There you go, Nitro.
Maybe an exploding head or something.
By the way, so apparently now, like all our major head coaching hires have to be knighted by Nitro. Is that our new thing?
I love it.
I mean, whatever. It's kind of kitschy. I don't know. It's kind of whatever. That's
I love
fine.
It.
Great.
I love it. Give it to me. Give me more of it.
All right. I mean, at least he didn't do like sword flourishing. Like Malzahn didn't do sword flourishing like Mohajir tried.
Simmons with a little bit of a post-apocalyptic take on the situation, which I find interesting.
So, are we
our old guy Andrew Jeanette? Yeah, Andrew Jeanette. What's up, man?
All little friends here. Look at that. I like that one. There you go.
That's taking us back.
No, back in the great TV sitcom days. Oh, a little Back to the Future.
It's actually not bad. Yeah, kind of.
What's the all right? Dylan Payne's got a good question. Here comes the Gus bus. What is the over under for 4-star recruits next year if we win a conference championship and a New Year's Six? First of all, that's a lot of stuff has to go right there. I would say that. Well, we already got one 4-star recruit this year with Titus.
Mm-hmm.
I could see over 1.5 next year, regardless of the result.
Sure,
I think 2 at the highest.
It's over 1.5.
Yeah, I think 2. I think if they pull that off, they'll get 2.
Yeah. By the way, it's you got to be aware of the stars thing, guys. I keep telling you guys this all the time. Like, go back and look at our recruiting database. Like, every star player that has come from UCF has been no higher than a 3-star. No higher.
Thing is, I don't think even at the best, the ranking will ever get better than 40. We'll be lucky to see UCF in the top 50.
One of the UCF's highest recruits ever was Cordarian Richardson, who then went on like his own like life journey through college football, like every university. And two of their best players in program history were 2-star athletes, AJ Boye and Richie Grant. I mean, who cares about stars?
Yeah,
it's all about development.
This is going to be okay. Yes, you're right, Drew. Mm-hmm. Thank you. It's all about development. And in line with that, I'm just going to drop this little link in here for everybody to see and I hope you guys look at it. All right. And Eric, I want you to put it up. I want you to put it up in the private chat.
I love those memes.
I'm putting it up in the private chat.
Do you see whoever came up with the idea? They just put. I mean, that's really good stuff.
I want everyone to take a look at this. It is all about player development, and I think this is going to be the key for Gus Malzahn here too. Is that you've got to develop the talent that you can get here in Florida. Okay, and if you do, all right, you will succeed at UCF. There's no question about it. Mm-hmm. I mean, guys who are NFL guys were no higher than 3. A lot of them were 2-stars, and I regrade them based on their. I mean, like. Brashad Perriman was a 2-star. Okay. Mm-hmm. Clayton Geathers was a 2-star. Quincy McDuffie, a 2-star. Kamal Ishmael, who played in the NFL, 2-star. All right. Kevin Smith, the greatest running back in the history of this program, maybe one of the 3 greatest players in the history of the program, was a 2-star recruit. Mm-hmm. All right. Josh Sitton, who played 1,000 years in the NFL, was a 2-star recruit. I mean, just.
Wait, Tyler Gabbert was a 4-star recruit?
Yeah.
4-star bust.
Yeah. If you look at the highest recruiting players, we had Josh Robinson. Now, Josh Robinson was as advertised, right? Kyle Gibson was a 4-star, as advertised. Josh Reese, as advertised. Torian Wilson finished his career. Didn't go to the NFL very much. But Tyler Gabbert was a 4-star. He didn't even finish here. Let's see. DeMarcus Smith nearly collapsed the whole program. There's a guy named I remember when UCF was really high on Alfonso Bryant. Alfonso Bryant was a wide receiver who was the first 4-star we had ever gotten here at UCF at a Homestead Senior High School. Left school a year later, never played again.
No, I thought there was 4. I thought Chad Masco was a 4-star back in like 2002.
Chad Masco was a 4-star? I mean,
I thought he was.
I thought he was a 3.
I'd have to look.
If Chad is watching, or if this gets back to Chad, I'm really sorry if I got this wrong.
I think the point has been driven home.
Yeah,
the point has been driven home. It's about development. It's about, again, I know people want them to recruit Florida because Florida's a lot of great athletes here. I get it. If you get the players that fit your system and then develop them, doesn't matter where they came from. Just get the right players and then develop them.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Get guys from Germany, for God's sake. We
got 2 guys from Hawaii, 2 quarterbacks, for crying out loud,
and a wide receiver.
And an offensive lineman.
Where do we go to find our quarterbacks? I don't know, like Arizona. Like, let's just go to Arizona. I mean,
I hear they grow good quarterbacks out there.
Just find good players that you like to fit your system. You think you can mold them into something, and then do so.
I see Cal Bloom was a 2-star. You gave him a 3-star grade. Is that because he's now in the WWE development? Is that why?
No, it's because he graduated. He completed his eligibility and graduated from UCF. That's the 3-star measure. It's based on actual tangible results, Eric.
Yeah. So again, for like the 1,000 million bajillion time, like stars, like don't worry about stars. Like if they get a 4-star player, we're gonna go nuts, and it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. Like what was Blake Bortles? I think Blake was a 2-star, wasn't he?
He only had 2 offers.
Yeah, and they were both to play tight end.
And then UCF,
including from UCF. Like UCF, like because we had Jeff Godfrey at the time, and it was
remember DeMarcus Smith, 4-star. Remember how that was a huge?
Yeah, I was just talking about him, and he nearly the scandal around his recruitment nearly blew up the program.
Yeah,
Bortles was a 3-star.
Yeah,
Bortles
3-star.
was a 3. Okay.
Yeah.
Mike Doty says, but stars do matter to other players. They shouldn't. Getting players with high ratings will get you good players to come here based on belief. No. What gets players to come here is results.
Yeah, if you win, you get good players.
It's not recruiting stars.
Like
it's winning freaking games.
Well, but there is a theory of the pipeline, right? Like you get McKenzie, that gets you Dylan Gabriel.
The pipeline happened, Eric, because we went undefeated in 2017.
Well, things went well, right? I mean, that's
right.
It had nothing to do with star ratings.
If McKenzie doesn't play well here and that team doesn't generate success, then probably Dylan Gabriel doesn't follow him here. Again,
right?
It's about results. And again, I understand that for players, for them to pump their chest out and for their ego, it's cool for them to get their 4-star or whatever. That's great. But again, it is nothing tangible. It is nothing that actually matters to the state of the program.
How many times have we seen that? Like, what was the story that actually happened this past year where there was a kid who was recruited by UCF. I forget who it was. He had no stars, even on his profile after. And then who was it? Someone from the SEC recruited him, and all of a sudden, boom, he was a 3-star.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Or something like that. I forget who it was. Somebody out there who's watching might be able to pull that out. But like the
just
stars,
winning games.
The recruiting star rankings are a racket. They are entirely based on subjective evidence.
Texas gets better recruiting classes than Iowa State, but yet Iowa State wins more games because again, we got Matt Campbell who develops players and gets them prepared to play.
Mike Doty made my exact case. Tennessee gets top 10 classes every year. Exactly. Look how far that got him. So stars don't matter. They don't. What matters is player development. And they are a racket, but 9 times out of 10, they accurately gauge talent. No, they don't, and I proved it right there on that article. Okay,
well,
go read it.
They don't.
There's also the intangibles that sometimes you're better off getting the lower star guy because he's got a chip on his shoulder, whereas you get a 4 or 5-star, everybody's told him he's great, and that's going to be harder to coach. That's also happened, and that's probably been at the decline of some of the marquee programs that we've seen. So it really just depends on who you are and the certain players. But at the end of the day, you got to develop the players. I don't care if they're 1-star or 5-star. It doesn't matter.
You got to develop the players.
The stars are there like rankings to create conversations. And like it is a neat little package for us to judge something, but it doesn't judge anything. It just helps us create conversation.
And you want to talk about NFL talent, right? UCF was getting NFL talent when it was a D1 independent. Mm-hmm. Brandon Marshall came here, okay, when UCF was a D1 independent. Dante Culpepper came here as a D1 independent.
But you don't get a Chad Masco who's a 4-star. Come on.
Masco was a good player, completed his eligibility here, but didn't go to the NFL.
I was looking at like former recruiting rankings, and I remember talking about a buddy a couple of weeks ago about Dylan Gabriel because he was not like a really, really high-end quarterback recruit. But I was looking through 2018 quarterback recruits. The number 38 ranked quarterback recruit on 24/7 Sports was Zach Wilson. He's going to be number 3-4 pick in the draft.
Zach Wilson's going to make a ton of money in the NFL, by the way.
Yeah, but Blake Bortles ended up 3rd.
He was the 38th.
Blake Bortles made a lot of money in the NFL and is still making money in the NFL.
Yeah. So again, please, I know we have created an atmosphere in college sports where recruiting rankings mean something because they need you to think it means something so that you give them clicks to read the articles. You have to,
and you give them $99 a year subscriptions.
Kind of like preseason polls.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's what I said. The rankings and stars are only to create
They're
discussion.
a racket.
So again, I know it could be good for a player's ego to get a high ranking from 24/7 or for rivals, but in the end, they bear no fruit. They mean absolutely zero tangibly. Zero.
Right. Murph, you and I will bang that door until the day we die.
Because we're not wrong. I will tell you if I was wrong. We're not wrong.
Right.
I almost cursed.
But it is a night show.
Look at what we did. Look at what we did. We managed to succeed in 2 hours to get Murph to both drink and swear on the air.
And Murph and I got to get ready for baseball media availability in the morning here. So we probably should be wrapping this up.
We got our interview with Greg Lovelady tomorrow morning, right?
Remember,
at 10 a.m.
Sleep is for the week next week. Sleep is for the week next week.
Yeah, no, right. Gosh, but anyway, it's that's the one thing that I always strived in this site to try and show everybody is that the truth lies beneath the surface, and it's unvarnished. And so, it just takes doing a little bit of work. Look who's joining us here.
That's so poetic.
Jeremy Brenner, who's done
Look
watching
at
the
that haircut.
Rockets
Look at that hair.
Wow. Wow, he looks so clean cut compared to
us. It's a pretty slow Monday, guys. Did anything happen today?
I saw your Rockets lost again, Jeremy.
I drank a dew.
I came on for some good vibes.
Okay.
We're all
you should have been on about 45 minutes ago because that's about the time that Murph and I started railing against star rankings.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah, that was the fun part.
I can watch back later because we can watch on demand.
All right, Jeremy,
get to drink.
Well, yeah, force. Keyword.
Jeremy, what are your impressions of this day?
Oh, I'm on the Gus bus, y'all.
Did you get the shirt?
Boy. I have not gotten this shirt, but you can get the shirt that Breaking Tea, our friends at Breaking Tea, have created. Little. I caught your volley.
We have, I mean, you were here. Were you here when Frost got hired?
Frost came here because of me. I'm in the same class with Frost and Dawkins. Dawkins, Coach Abe, Brenner. That's like, and Roddick. But Roddick's
so you're the real success. It wasn't Danny White. It was you.
Right.
You made
Roddick
this happen.
Is the one they usually leave out.
Rank for us the excitement level of Gus Malzahn compared to Scott Frost compared to Josh Heupel around.
Well, I think it has to do with the fact like Scott Frost had very little expectation, right? He hadn't won. It was his first job, and same with Heupel. I feel like Heupel, people were excited about Heupel because of his potential. But with Malzahn, it's not about the potential; it's about where he's been. So that's the difference here between, and it's similar to the O'Leary hire because O'Leary had success in the ACC. So, but this is on a different level. And he said everything right today, and we talked about this earlier. Everything he said today was correct. It's what you want to hear, but he's 0-0. He hasn't won a game for us yet. Let's wait until the fall and see how this team translates. I'm a little worried about the roster, to be honest. I don't know if the roster is as good as where it needs to be, considering the fact that we're losing Tay Gowan, we're losing Aaron Robinson. I mean, we didn't really have Tay Gowan this past year, but the secondary is going to be needing work, and the receivers, Trey Nixon's out. They're going to have trouble at the receiver position too. So this team is going to need retooling. And I don't know if Malzahn can really do that with Heupel's roster. And Heupel's rosters have significantly decreased as the Frost guys have moved on, and the Heupel. I don't necessarily know if all of that is because of just the coach or the recruiting classes as well. That's something we do need to keep in mind.
Fair.
Very important question. Do we get Gus Malzahn cutouts?
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean, we had Scott Frost cutouts, right? I remember that.
There was George O'Leary.
Someone out there still has a George O'Leary
cutout. I think we should get
that ad campaign was great.
Coach Abe.
Listen,
I would love to get a cutout of Coach Abe.
Bonus points to anybody who still has a George O'Leary cutout in their room.
I mean, look,
Trace has one. Trace Trelko, our good friend.
Does Trace still have one? Someone else still has one. I thought I saw.
I still have the patch.
You can see the first picture that UCF football dropped of Gus Malzahn. It's him in his UCF like anthracite polo with a football and you can just see that's definitely going to be a standee in the bookstore in a few months. That's coming.
Yeah, or is it going to be a fathead?
No. It'll be a standee, but he'd be holding a Coke.
That's good. No, that's good.
Man, all I can think of is that Wayne's World commercial from the Super Bowl with the product placement and the subliminal advertising.
Hey man, you got to please the sponsors.
As he takes a swig, is that what are we drinking tonight?
Why isn't Maker's Mark sponsoring our night shift?
I was about to ask you. That looks like a Maker's Mark top, but the bottle wasn't the right shape.
You guys are going to get me in so much trouble.
I mean, Maker's Mark 46. It's a fantastic bourbon. I mean, not that anybody knows. It's not a secret. It's popular bourbon.
Jeremy, how many students are going to come to games in the student section dressed in sweater vests?
If COVID permits, at least 1,000.
So maybe
it's your over under
at the highest.
Yes. If COVID doesn't permit, 1,000.
I don't know. The fans never really got. The fans never really wore the shacket to games. I don't know if they're going to be willing to wear.
Florida is not best weather.
Yeah.
Florida is not the kind of best weather. Although, you know what I think they could do? I remember going to a game a couple years ago. They had those Christmas vest, giveaways at the end of the game. At the end of the game, you get that. I think that is where I think they should make how Mike Ditka has that Bears t-shirt and he has the Bears, the iconic vest that he would wear when he would coach the Bears games.
Yeah.
That's what Breaking Tea should do next. Is just a vest with Gus Bus just right on the cross. That I would buy.
Just make a t-shirt that has a
we
fake
should go talk to
Breaking
Breaking Tea because Breaking Tea made that and without much input. They just said here. And hey, if we have an edit for them or an add-on, because I think that Gus Bus t-shirt that they made is incredible. I will be getting one. But if in addition to
I got some breaking news, by the way. Scott Van Pelt will be talking about this hire on his One Big Thing.
Is that new? Well,
is that new?
That's not news.
Well,
that's not news.
Well,
I'm the managing editor of the site, and I declare that's not news.
Here's what that tells me. I'm going to make this prediction. I think Gus will be on that show this week.
You know what that tells me, Eric? That today was a slow news day.
It was,
and we're on top of it. And we're on top of it, baby.
Quick question that Bryson has asked us twice now. Sorry, Bryson.
Bryson, thanks for sticking around in this interminable night shift.
Do you think? Well, I mean, he kept asking the question. We never answered it. That props to the kid for persistence. Do you think Gus will keep running back coach Matt Merritt? I'm looking at our current coaches. I don't see him on the list.
I think Gus cleans house.
I don't think they've retained anyone.
So I didn't see him go to Tennessee. Did you, Murph?
No, because Merritt still has the UCF Twitter banner where it's UCF running backs coach. But you're right, Jeffrey. If you look at the coaching list, it's now Gus Malzahn with a bunch of defensive coach and Nick Toth and other staff members. So And we have nothing firm on this, but I'm skeptical. I would be.
It's been a little like a little squishy, the movement of UCF's offensive staff to Tennessee. Like I saw that
just named Golesh officially.
Yeah, Golesh just was officially named an assistant at Tennessee today.
Well, I mean, we know. So they've changed all their headers. So it's Golesh, it's Halsley, it's Cody Burns, who was UCF's wide receivers coach for like a cup of coffee,
played for Gus at Auburn.
Man. Yeah, that poor man.
People are going on about like, hey, I hope he didn't put down his deposit on the apartment in Knoxville.
Mitch Mettello, who worked with a lot of quarterbacks, was offensive assistant. Tyler Hudanik, former UCF offensive lineman, was a grad assistant. And Glenn Ellerby, the offensive line coach. Yeah. They've all gone to Tennessee, and I don't know if Merritt is among them. I imagine if he was, that he would be part of that group already. I just don't think that Gus will retain him. I think Gus wants all of his own people.
Here's the current UCF coaching staff right now, who's officially on UCF's coaching staff right this second. All right, it's Randy Shannon.
Malzahn.
Nick Toth is still officially the special teams coordinator. Willie Martinez is still here, secondary. Corey Bell, Shane Burnham, Miguel Carradine, who's the strength coach. Jacob Bronowski, who's the special teams assistant. Lanier Sampson, who's an offensive assistant, and the two grad assistants on defense, Tyson Key and Darian Monroe.
And also not on that list is Kurt Schmidt, who's like their head trainer, or not their head trainer, but he was the guy doing most of the body work. I mean, it's really important now. Gus mentioned it during the presser. It's really important for him to bring in not a trainer, because Mary Vanderheiden's their trainer, but he's their strength coordinator basically.
Yeah,
it's really important for them to bring in.
I thought it was really interesting that he specifically brought that up. Yeah, he brought that up before the coordinators.
So that was interesting because they did lose Kurt Schmidt.
Yeah, strength and conditioning is huge. I mean, that you do that right, you prevent a lot of injuries.
Well, not only that, it's like it depends entirely on the system that you're going to run, right? So, the way that strength and conditioning was run under George O'Leary, under Ed Ellis, and Scott, I forget his last name, but they both went to the University of Georgia, because I see them on the sideline all the time whenever I watch a Georgia game. But that was a totally different way of running strength and conditioning compared to what Frost was doing. Like they were trying to get their guys big and strong under O'Leary because it was a very pro-style heavy run game. Whereas under Frost, it was an entirely different regime of strength that focused a lot more on fast twitch muscle fiber, on quickness, those kinds of things, because UCF was running that no-huddle offense.
Right.
So that was a big change, and I do think that's part of the reason why in 2016 UCF kind of faded down the stretch, because it's hard to get your entire way of getting your body into shape completely changed in the course of one season. Eventually you do kind of hit a conditioning wall, and that's where the following off season, the 2016 to 2017 off season, was so key for UCF, because guys knew what was expected of them. They had another season for their bodies to get ready and be prepared, and they needed it because, lo and behold, because of the hurricane, they had to play 11 games in 11 weeks.
Brutal. So absolutely brutal.
And they somehow got through it. I will never forget what Trey Neal told us about that, about how they were sucking wind at the end of that year.
Yeah.
So if now I don't know how different it's going to be with Gus compared to what Heupel wanted from his players in terms of strength and conditioning. If there is a significant change, that could very profoundly affect the results, I think, towards the end of the season.
That's where you get your big injuries and stuff, and guys are just worn down. You get dinged up over the season, and you get mentally tired, and then physically,
because it's a grind. And everyone, I think people have to remember this. Like, it is a grind Like the college football season at every level is just
a full-time job.
Absolute grind. And you don't hear about the injury. You only hear about 5% of the injuries that take place in the course of a season. Everyone's got all kinds of stuff banged up by the end of the year. And we always say, oh, they're 18 to 22-year-olds. You know what? When you get hurt, it doesn't matter what age you are. Like
I was in middle school and I had a practice with a pinched nerve in my neck. I mean, you go through some weird things that happen during the season. I mean, you never hear about
it. Philip Klein asked.
I've heard of it of Drew's pinched nerve. You're right about that.
Philip Klein asks, "Do you think South Florida jumps UCF this year?" No, I don't. No.
Their way.
That is a long uphill climb.
I'm going to add about. I don't think it'll be Matt Merritt at running back coach. I'm curious. 2 names pops in my head. One being Kevin Smith, who's obviously in the SEC. UCF ties. Does Gus bring anybody with UCF ties? Time will tell on that. Think of does a Darren Hinshaw who's been in the SEC, does he come? Who knows? This is all speculation. Another name I'll throw out there, Cadillac Williams, who obviously he knows well, Auburn days. I know he's on the Auburn staff. Would he come? Again, we don't know, but I kind of agree with you guys. I think you're going to see a brand new
Cadillac, former Buccaneer.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So who knows? Familiar with Florida.
Right.
Let me ask you that, Eric. I think that part of the whole Lebby thing was the potential of bringing former UCF players back into the fold. But your indications have been that door is not closed, even with Gus Malzahn here.
Correct. I don't think that's closed at all. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens here in the next few days. Obviously, Gus will has his guys in mind, but yeah, I don't think I would shut the door on Kevin Smith. He's done a great job at running back coach at FAU, and obviously he's doing a great job at Ole Miss, and I'm sure Gus is aware of him, and I've even heard that Gus, will probably talk to him. So we'll see what happens. Now, Kevin's got to do what's best for Kevin. And Kevin might feel he's more comfortable with Lane Kiffin and what he's building at Ole Miss. Who knows? Time will tell, and maybe Gus has somebody else in mind, but I wouldn't shut the door. And I just mentioned that Hinshaw, I'd be curious if he gets in play here, maybe on the offensive side. He was at Kentucky for a while, has SEC experience, but ties to UCF. I think we're going to know quickly though. And I think Murph, correct me if I'm wrong. Gus said he hoped to have a staff in, pretty much within a week or two, right?
Well, he's a week. He said he's been he's been this week putting a staff together. So yeah, I would imagine in less than a week.
He's got plenty of money to do it. $3.1 million.
That's pretty good.
That's a big jump. Big jump.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. So we'll see what happens. Is it time for a new DC? Boy, how many times? Yeah,
Philip, you got here a little late.
Yeah. Yes, we'll probably have a new DC.
You're going to have to go back and watch, the first hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Probably
Richard Machado chimed in with one last question here. Most important question on staffing, who's the holdback guy?
Hey, that's an important job.
Jeremy, you want that?
Yes.
There you go.
I'm gonna go with Manny. I want Manny is get back.
Anytime I hear job and Jeremy in the same sentence, the answer is yes. Like
Jeremy needs a job, ladies and gentlemen.
If anyone knows, anyone hiring
Don't do anything.
Recently graduated sports, media person. I also,
he writes, he podcasts.
A writer for hire.
And he'll do an Irish jig.
No, I won't.
He's a content producer extraordinaire.
Probably I won't do.
But Gus talked about the press conference about he's going to have a gum guy, make sure a guy's got gum on hand.
I think Manny has that pretty much wrapped up.
It's Manny.
Yeah,
Manny is UCF football.
Yeah, I wonder what Manny thinks. Manny's got to be loving this.
What is y'all's opinion on gum? Do you like gum?
Do
you like gum now?
I am in favor of it.
I'm okay with that.
I hate gum. Like
very
few things.
Congratulations! Just took yourself out of the running for that job.
Well,
what
no.
What did gum ever do to you?
Gum gives me headaches, bro. Like for real. Doesn't gum give you a headache?
No, that's because you're jaw. You're crunching down too hard. You're gonna.
You need to do some exercises. So anyway, what do we think? Because I guess we're going to be wrapping up here in a little bit. So
you think? Yeah, me and Murph got.
I don't know. I mean, we're talking about gum. You want to wrap it up
always,
or no?
Eric, you're always like, I'm up until 3:00 in the morning watching the Australian Open.
Yeah, and I want to get back to that. I mean, this is big. The quarterfinals going on. Our girl Pegula is in the quarterfinals. Hello,
I want to wrap up with this. Who's going to be what's going to be the first big post Gus Malzahn hiring news to come out of UCF football? Is it going to be a assistant coach hire, and who do you think it'll be? Is it going to be any sort of player movement, like a transfer or something like that? What do you think it's going to be? And we're going to go clockwise, starting with Eric.
Oh, it's going to be coaching move. And we might know as early as Tuesday, Wednesday range some coaches already. I really do. So I think coaching is going to dominate the headlines there.
Okay, so give me a name.
Not Randy Shannon. That's the best I can tell you. It won't be Randy Shannon. That alone. I think we already discussed who we think is going to come here as the next defensive coordinator. But I think we're going to see.
Think is in the running at least, because there's probably going to be more than a few interviews. But Travis Williams from Miami,
I will go.
Auburn might be.
I'm going to go bold here. No information at all. I do think we'll have a UCF alum on this coaching staff. There's going to be a UCF alum on this coaching staff. I don't know if it's offensive. Yeah, no, bold. There you go. So
that's what I'm looking for.
There you go. Next,
Drew.
Jeremy gets hired as water boy.
And I'll be the best water boy UCF ever had.
Some high quality H2O.
Yeah.
Jeremy, you should go after
Murph?
the Texas gig. I heard the Texans are looking for some personnel.
I do not want to be anywhere close.
Jeremy, not even Jeremy wants to get on that sinking ship.
I just feel like for I think unspoken and pretty obvious reasons that the next quarterback's coach is pretty important. So I think that's going to be high on the list of priorities. I don't want to say it's going to be the next guy. I'm sorry to ruin your game. But I think that's going to be something I'm watching out for above all else.
I have no information on this, just like you, Eric. I'm just throwing stuff against the wall, but I think it's going to be interesting. I do think that Gus is going to hire at least one name that was a former head coach on the offensive staff. At least one name who will be a former head coach on the offensive staff.
You going to name him?
No.
Okay.
You say that, though, as if you're holding back some cards.
I have no inside information at all. I got nothing. I'm just looking at the Gus tree, and I'm like, why not? Let's go with that. Jeremy, you're last.
Do you think, I don't know if y'all have discussed this yet, but do you think there's any chance that he pulls Gene Chizik out of retirement?
Please no.
Any chance?
As a coordinator?
Yeah. As the DC. He's from Orlando, around this, he has connections to Orlando from, he's been at UCF before.
I don't think so. Plus, I don't think that ended very well there. Remember, Gus took over for Gene, and they did pretty well without him. I don't think so. I don't think Gene's making good money, from what I understand, in TV and other things he's doing outside of football. I don't think he's just going to settle in for a defensive coordinator spot.
Here's the thing with Gene. Gene's last year in coaching was 2016 at North Carolina. He was the defensive coordinator.
It did not go well.
And it really didn't go well. So I agree with you, Eric. Gene is enjoying doing television. He's pretty good on TV. He actually hosted the coaches multicast for the national championship game. And usually they hand that to, I think Luganbill does that, but they didn't have Luganbill there this year. So Gene hosted it, and I thought he did a pretty good job. So I think Gene is going to stay in television. Although I will give you credit, Jeremy. That is a pretty good.
I do think, I thought it was just nice to bring it up, but I do think Travis Williams is the inside favorite, and I would be happy with him. I think
Chizik coaches again at some point, but like I don't know why Gus would want to hire him, knowing that all the storyline and baggage and possible distractions that would be attached to that. Like everyone's going to jump over that storyline of like, oh, it's the old Auburn head coach and the guy here that replaced him, and they're back on the same staff. Like I think that's one of the reasons why Gus wouldn't do that. I don't think Gus wants to.
Not to mention that's kind of expensive. That would be expensive. Yeah. Like I don't, you know.
I thought Jeremy for Waterboy was a good pick.
But maybe.
Wait, Jeff, what do you think, real quick, before
never
we wrap?
Never.
What do you think of Darren? I showed Darren Hinshaw there. You mentioned quarterback coach. He was a quarterback coach at Kentucky. UCF ties, coached in the SEC. I mean, am I going way too out there? I mean, would that be crazy there?
I see here. I love where you're going with this, but the thing is with Darren is I don't see any connections in his past with Gus or with people who Gus worked with or worked alongside or worked for. I could be wrong, but I'm looking back through his bio. He was at Kentucky. Let's see. He was at Cincinnati before that, 13 to 15. He was at Tennessee in 10 and 11 and 12. Memphis from 07. Oh yeah, I don't see anything that connects him to Malzahn in some way. I would love to see Darren Hinshaw come back and coach at UCF at some point in the future.
And he may not want to. He may want to go somewhere where he's calling plays. I mean, again, this is way out of left field. We're speculating irresponsibly, as Murph would say. But that's what we do here at 2 hours and 20 minutes into the podcast.
Yeah. But I don't see it. I don't see it, unfortunately, because I think Darren
not there anymore, is he?
No, I think he got let go.
Yeah.
They got. That's why I'm saying he's available. Agent, so. Yeah, that's the only reason I brought him up. He is available. He's coached in the SEC. Maybe they've crossed paths. You never know. I'm looking forward to it. Searches will be fun to see.
And Darren's not an air raid guy either, right? So
may not. But you asked me a question. I went way out of left field there. So that's what I did.
All right, Eric, you're hosting this. I think we've tortured the audience long enough.
But no, it's just been an incredible number of people tuning in with questions, the numbers. I mean, we've been over 2 hours. It's definitely the longest night shift of all time.
I know.
So, as you can tell by Murph.
Day shift now at this point.
Day shift, morning shift. Before we go.
Shift.
All right. We got a busy work. There you go. Before we go, we got a busy week. Keep it on Black and Gold Banneret. Go to UCF_Banneret for all the latest. Murph and I are going to be at baseball media availability Tuesday morning. Baseball is back here. If we didn't have more reason to be excited, we hope to have a baseball special podcast later this week. We'll also have, there you go. Murph said it. His fingers crossed. UCF baseball season starts. Hey, does Gus throw out first? Can he throw a first pitch? Is that allowed? Like
Gus said he's going to be at the baseball games, basketball games. I mean, Hype was at the baseball games, so come on, Gus, come on out.
I love it.
Murph, so we got to break down his first pitch. If he gets to throw a first pitch, he'll probably be at the basketball game, UCF Wednesday night. Mm-hmm. So it's a busy night. We got other UCF sports news going on, though, by the way. So we'll address all that this week on the regular podcast. Make sure you subscribe to that. Andrew, you've got stuff cooking for on the site, right?
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting ready to start looking, back at this past year and looking towards next year. That we finally actually can have a post-mortem for the season because we actually have something to look towards. This has been a very interesting offseason, to say the least.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff on the site right now. Danny wrote a column on Gus's statement in the press conference that UCF will make the CFP in a short period of time. Eric, you got the latest nightcap. We're doing that every Monday on some of the other sports around UCF that are off to strong starts. Softball's 3-1; they're off to a good start. Tennis is continuing to kick some butt. Danny also has some social media reaction from the players to the hire of Gus Malzahn. A lot going on, and I do especially want to call attention to Murph's great column about UCF men's basketball team and just the signs of hope that you see from even though the results aren't there, the team really is growing up and getting better day by day. So really encourage everyone to take a look at that as basketball heads down the home stretch.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, but we do have a lot of Gus coverage there. So we got every UCF sport covered. We'll have it for you on blackandgoldbanneret.com. This was historic.
Good prediction on having picking Malzahn on that list, sir.
Yeah.
Boy, can we replace that softball photo with another photo of Gus?
If he could throw
and wait a second before we go. Okay, so Jeremy Brenner's newsletter, that he works tirelessly on every night for you, my dear UCF fans.
Wow,
we've transitioned that from on the site to Review, which is a newsletter platform, and we're trying it out this week. Sign up for the newsletter right now. Okay, you can go on. Take a look at the on the site right now. If you scroll down to the latest newsletter link, February 15, 2021, that'll send you to a link to the newsletter on Review. Put your email address in and sign up for that newsletter, because we'll have every weekday we send it out 9 a.m. sharp, that you can get the latest news from UCF sports from the day before. It's our daily little link drop, we like to call it, right, Jeremy?
We call it the newsletter with a K.
Newsletter with a K.
That was my idea.
And
idea?
Props to you for the hard work that you do on that every day. I'm eternally thankful for it. So awesome job by you. And we're trying this out. We'll see how it works. We want to see how many people sign up for it. Sign up for it. It's really cool. We put together the first one as like a test run for this morning, and it worked out really well. I think it looked really good. I know that much.
Any predictions on who's going to be the photo for that newsletter on Tuesday?
Actually, it's actually going to be basketball. I said it as a basketball.
Whoa!
There we
Gus
are.
Said it as basketball. Okay.
Oh, you got a Gus photo shooting baskets?
Yeah. believe it or not.
Well, the press conference was
Photoshop
held
is
at the
fine.
arena tonight, so I mean, there's that.
It's pretty good. All right,
Yeah.
boys, this was a pleasure. This is historic. Five screens.
Big day.
This is a historic show that will go down in the annals of UCF history right here. People will be looking at this show back many, many years.
Big day.
It'll take the many years to watch it.
All right, we get the hit, Murph. That was Brian Murphy, who's ready to roll for baseball and just wants to get going.
Oh, that's an awful pun, Eric. That's an awful pun.
All right, that's pretty much a late night for Brian Murphy.
You guys see what I have to deal with every day? Now you know.
That's
now
Murph.
you know.
Andrew Gluchov, Jeremy Brenner, Jeff Sharon. I'm Eric Lopez. Thanks to all of you for tuning in. Thank you for doing that. Keep it on our YouTube page, subscribe and like, and on blackandgoldbanneret.com for all the latest in UCF athletics. Good night and charge on, everybody.
Hop on the Gus bus. Here we go.
Honk, honk.